Here you go. All right,
Norman, do you know our commissioner?
I don't know everyone.
Okay, well, we can do
Right
that.
down the road. Tim,
Troy,
Troy, Bill.
Doyle Spear.
okay, nice to meet you guys. I'm Anthony Frisch, with Western Probation Services. There was a quick handout, it's just sort of for some reference, information. Basically what our office is kind of made up of. We are operating under a joint powers agreement between the counties of Big Stone, Grant, Traverse, Stevens, and Wilkin. This has been in existence for a lot of years. Our main function is to provide supervision for gross misdemeanor, misdemeanor, and all juvenile caseloads. What I've been doing in the last probably year is hitting all the boards, just kind of giving them an update on where we're at with everything, what we do. And kind of explaining the delivery systems in the state of Minnesota and kind of that landscape and how that's changed over the last couple of years. Currently in my office, there's myself as the director, and I have 2 agents, full-time agents, and a support specialist as well. I am also an active agent, so I cover the counties of Stevens and Big Stone. We have a full-time agent dedicated just to Wilkin. We have a agent in Grant County here who also doubles as our juvenile agent. She is also what we were calling a schools preventionist, so to speak. And what that is it's a position we created a year ago. We finally got it into the schools about Christmas last year rather. And what this is this agent will be in the 5 big schools. We just don't have the resources to put her in all the schools at one time. But we're there to support the counselors, the principals, teachers, staff. We're kind of there as a tool. We're kind of there as a resource. You know, for example, there may be a student or something that's having some issues, problems, concerns. We're there to offer support resources as need be. We did go around to all the schools and explain to them what we would be doing and that we are not shopping. We're not shopping for clients here. We're not looking for kids. We're not trying to find kids that are being negative or having delinquent type behaviors, putting them on probation. We're doing quite the opposite. And that is to prevent these individuals from ending up in our juvenile justice system. So that's something we've been leaning really hard on in the last few months. We're going to begin the school year here in another month, and hopefully it'll be off and running on a full-time basis. So that's kind of the makeup of in a real quick nutshell. I don't want to take up a lot of your guys' time today, so I'll just jump into kind of the outline of the delivery system in the state of Minnesota. There should be this form. I think you guys got this. Okay. In the state of Minnesota, probation is broken down into 3 delivery systems. So you have the Department of Corrections, and I will point out that Itasca, I scratched off here. It's got red lines. That will need to be changed. But there's 3 delivery systems, and this is kind of an outline. You'll see the ones that are blue. The Department of Corrections has a footprint there, which means that they handle all the felony caseloads for those counties. The next delivery system is DOC/CPO. CPO is County Probation Office, and that's what we operate on. Which means that again, we will cover all the gross misdemeanor adult caseloads, as well as the juvenile caseloads. And within that same region we operate, the Department of Corrections covers all the felony cases. The last delivery system is CCA, and those are designated in the white areas here. CCA is Community Corrections Act. And what that designates out to be that all cases in those counties are controlled by the counties. Everything from a juvenile caseload all the way up to a felony caseload or a person coming out of prison on parole. They control and they supervise all those caseloads. There are a couple other, there's the federal system as well as the tribal government. We didn't get into that, but this map kind of designates the breakdown. You'll see the ones in yellow. All the ones in yellow were DOC/CPO counties. The ones that have the red marks on them, you can take Itasca out. I got a little little overzealous there. But the ones that have the red marks on them have now gone to a CCA platform. So for our region, Otter Tail, Polk County. You guys probably work closely with other commissioners from those regions. They have left the CPO world, we call it, and entered into the CCA, zone. And what that means is they're covering all felony caselets now. There is an expenditure that they have taken over as well as, manpower. The DOC has no longer a footprint there, which resulted in their agents coming out of there. I don't think Otter Tail County brought too many over. A lot of those agents were relocated to different assignment areas. The reason that I'm bringing this to all the county boards for your information and as you mingle with other commissioners throughout the state. When I took over Western Probation Services approximately 15 years ago, there was 26 CPO counties. As of today, we are down to 13, and I have 5 of them. So there's been a significant shift, and you'll see, I think the last page here, this is kind of where we're standing. Everything that's highlighted in yellow, these are the remaining 13 counties left under a CPO designation. So in recent months, everybody has been talking about, you know, where do we go from here? Do we stay where we're at? What's the best objective moving forward? I will tell you, in April, I attended a conference. There was a couple counties that did go CCA that are maybe lamenting on their decision. They thought it wasn't going to be as large of a transition or a use of resources as it is. So there's a few counties that are maybe questioning their decisions on that, but by and large, as I indicated, in 2 years, we lost all these counties. So that will be a dramatic shift to the state. What's 2 years gonna bring from here on out? What's the next 5 years look like? So as I bring to the counties, I want you guys to be aware of these things. I am not here addressing budgetary issues. I'll tell you this, that our budgetary, our format came down in July. We're well funded, void of any need from the support of the counties. Right now, my department within the 5 counties, we're essentially self-funded through the state. The monies that were allotted under a single source of funding source from the state developed, I believe it was about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years, I don't remember, right? I bring it up at every one of our meetings, but I don't recall. Under that formula that they created, our region, our 5 county region has come out in a very good position to afford the counties almost zero financial obligation. I think there's 4 retired, well, there's 3 retirees, 2 agents and a support staff, and a spouse that are still covered under some type of long-term health care, which equates to approximately under $5,000 a year, divvied up amongst 5 counties. So on the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. So so from a budgetary standpoint, we're in a very good position. However, globally, from where we want to go is supervising people. Right now, we work in conjunction really well with the Department of Corrections out of Moorhead. The felony office has designated 2 full-time agents in this region. There should be a 3rd one. However, they're having a tough time keeping that agent within Big Stone and Traverse County. I believe they're on 6th or 7th agents. People will come out. They come out to greater Minnesota and they realize they're in greater Minnesota and they put their 6 months in and 3 months in and then they transfer. So I know one of our counties to the south, there's been some contention there because they can't have any consistency with their felony supervision. So it's a concern of mine of moving forth, you know, 2 years, 3 years, like I said, 5 years from now, CPO counties may not exist. We may not have an option. It would either be, you know, you go full-time with the DOC or you go to a CCA type format. if given my option, I would definitely choose a CCA format. I've been in this business 26 years. I've had the opportunity to work in all three of these delivery systems. By far, I like the way the CPO is designed. It gives us the opportunity and latitude in our region and our department to kind of create certain programs and implement them as needed, without the structure, and rules and statutes that are required to do some of the felony work. So I like that, but I think, if we get to the point where we have to decide CCA format is the direction we should go. What that does, it provides a format for local control. The Department of Corrections, about a year ago, kind of started a campaign of going around to counties and saying, hey, we can provide complete services, juvenile all the way up through felony supervision in a more efficient and effective manner, and kind of the we know best type of platform, type of attitude. I don't know how that's possible when they don't utilize local resources and know the people locally. In our office, including myself, I'm from Dumont, Wheaton area originally. Everybody in my office is local. Everybody in my office, I'm born and raised, I went to school there. And from my perspective, I think that lends itself into small communities of what we need. And I'm not gonna say we know best, but we kind of know what we need here. So that's something that I think is important. From the other aspect of CPO counties, we just don't have a lobbying power anymore. We most likely won't have as large of a footprint or a voice with the legislators moving forward. We're still kind of, as a group, there's still some of the CCA counties that are attending our meetings, and we're getting information, we're sharing some trainings, that kind of stuff, but by and large, I think our footprint is, and our voice is gonna be diminished further we go down the road here. So
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Tony. So, you know, the DOC, if we went that route, we would lose that money, right? The $150,000 a year.
well, what happens is, so each county under the funding formula, each county was designated for their gross misdemeanor, juvenile cases, for example, us. We had $75,000. The DOC in that county was $75,000. So for here, you have $150,000. If you went DOC, you lose that $75,000. That $150 goes directly to the DOC.
Right.
And you have next to zero ability to manage that money.
Yeah. So then, you know, with the CCA, then that whole $150,000 would go to, we'd get 5.
Correct, because you are providing the entirety of supervision. So you're providing the felony services as well as the gross misdemeanors. In addition to this funding formula, and the way, you know, for us, I have some close colleagues that sat on that board that generated this funding formula. By far, Western Probation Services came out very good compared to the rest of the state. The funding formula is based per county, but it's also based on numbers. So historically, and Ms. Vipont here, Sheriff Vipont, she can contest to that. She was in our office for a while. We ran adult numbers anywhere from 400 to 450. So the state now is paying us per adult caseload. So there's the 75,000 per county plus each caseload, open caseload, and that ebbs and flows all the time. So as we sit here today, the budgets went out. We got our monies for 2027. We know what that looks like. What's it gonna look like next year? No idea. We can kind of plan and say, yeah, it's gonna be $75,000 every year per county moving forward. As we all know, we will have a new governor. whatever political party that is, that can affect, the money end of things. We know that the commissioner of corrections, there's talk, I don't know any specifics on this, but there's talk that he's getting to the point where he would like to relinquish his position and retire. So there's always a change with regime, there's always a change with the way monies work as well, right? I would assume probably in the next year after that, the funding formula's been in a full 4-year cycle, they'll probably sit down and take another look at this and go, okay, did this work? Is this not working? So the answer to your question, yes, we would receive all that funding. What that funding would look like and how much, it remains to be seen, right?
We gotta clarify though, the 75,000 currently comes to Grant County, doesn't actually stay in Grant County, that all goes over to probation.
So that's a,
So I mean, that's not when you say that Grant County would lose that, we're just passing that through, but it's not like we're paying other bills with that.
No,
no, that money that's coming in is for correction money, period. So, and Traverse County is our fiscal host. So all that, Stevens County, Wilkin County, Big Stone County, you guys, it all goes to Traverse County and Traverse County's amount goes in there.
yeah, but one thing there too, though, yeah, it's not our money, but we're not levying like we used to. Cause we used to dump in like around 50,000 a year for probation.
Yeah, so,
So, right?
well, so historically, under a CPO designation originally designed, the state was to provide or offset costs at 50%. That was their designated portion. The first couple of years that worked okay, and then it started slipping down to 48, 45, 38. I mean, I've seen it down around the early low 20s. And that was basically how this whole thing a few years ago got started is, hey, the state, they're making more mandates saying, well, we can't fund this, so where does the money go? It goes down to the counties. You guys gotta come up with the money, right? Well, they looked at this and said, well, your current funding source at 50%, you're not even providing the 50%, so we gotta figure something else out. And that's where this whole new funding formula came about. The good part about the funding formula is that everybody's essentially in the same boat. Doesn't matter what delivery system you are, whether you're the Department of Corrections, CPO or CCA, you're all receiving that same designated line item. So for us, Grant County, gross misdemeanor, and juvenile caseloads, you're receiving 75,000. Clay County is receiving 75,000. Hubbard County is receiving 75,000. Hennepin County is receiving that 75,000. So big or small, it didn't matter, right? And that's why we've come out of a pretty good light here and been able to offset any of those costs. Now, obviously, you guys know this, you've seen some of our juvenile auto home placement costs, our bills come through and they can be extensive. So you're saving money, and that's one thing I've always advised counties that right now we're in a good spot to where it's not costing, but it does cost you some of these outlier funds. Is to plan accordingly for the future. Historically, our auto home placement costs have kind of driven down a little bit, but it takes one event with 2 or 3 juveniles from your county, and boom, now you have 3-4 kids in placement at a round rate of about 10 to 15,000 a month. So it can get expensive significantly. So, which, I mean, we'll throw this out. I had 2 conversations and several emails with the then Deputy Commissioner of Corrections regarding how we can use our monies. And they absolutely emphatically would not let us spend that money, our monies on auto placement costs. It's a definite need, it's an incurred cost, and it's a cost that the county shouldn't have to pay for because the resources there I was shot down at every turn to the point of having legislatively the statute in front of us going line by line. And still the word was no, so we moved on from that, but.
Tony, comparing the 3 different delivery systems, do they track outcomes?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Is there someone rising to the top or to the bottom, or what's your,
As far as offenses
or
or
just the desired, how operationally, what's the desired outcomes? Is one better than the other?
You know, and again, I'm speaking from my experience. Certain delivery systems work better in certain regions, right? The Department of Corrections may have a better understanding of more urban type or larger city outcomes and practices. What's going on in maybe say example, Clay County, in the city of Moorhead is not necessarily beneficial to what's going on in Breckenridge. What's going on in Breckenridge and Wheaton and Morris maybe not so as beneficial to what's going on in Rochester or Mankato. You know, a DWI is a DWI, right? It really doesn't matter in the state where it's at. It's the component of how that person got the DWI, right? The factors in which, same thing with drug offenses. Obviously, some delivery systems offer maybe a better resources to fit in with certain offenses. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think from a perspective of taking CPO completely out of this, I hope that we don't get there. I never would have thought when I started this, you know, you look at the numbers in 15 years, we started with 26 and now we're down to 13 with 5 of them right here. I never would have guessed that, but here we are. So I think from a future perspective, if you took CPO out of this completely and went with a CCA and DOC, you really have to decide how much local control. And I will say that repeatedly. And I have counterparts. I have some friends with the Department of Corrections yet, and they will say, "Well, you know, you still have local control." We don't, because it's being mandated at higher levels and pushed down to regional offices that are then until delivered out here. You know, for example, when the agent left the Big Stone, Travers, the felony agent, the last agent, she resigned her position. They haven't filled that, and that's been 2 years. Now, you know, the Department of Corrections is well within their right to do whatever they want, but I think there's a need for supervision out there specifically for those 2 counties, but yet the Department of Corrections hasn't backfilled that, and they're supervising it from their regional office in Moorhead. Well, that's 90 miles from Ortonville to Moorhead. Supervision standards, living in an area and being in an area and seeing folks on a daily basis. That to me holds a lot more than monitoring people from afar. It just does. So
One other thing there, Tony, too, that, you know, your citizens in Traverse and Grant and stuff, they're talking to the probation officer about clients.
yep,
You know, I seen this guy over here doing this, I seen this guy over here doing that. So you get informed of a lot more information.
well, and here's, I was thinking about this morning. I mean, I have coffee with the ex probation officers and the county sheriff almost on a daily basis every morning. I make it a point when I go to my counties, I go talk to the sheriff's departments. I run down quick, I'll talk to the social service folks. You always get an earful. Did you know about this? Did you know about this? Did you hear this? You know, even locally, I live in Wheaton, and you go to the hardware store and somebody will say, you know, who's this new guy? And does anybody know about this? So I mean, I think that's a value added that can be replicated from a state perspective, right? The state will make mandates, they will send them down to the counties and say, hey, now go ahead and work this out, do what you think is beneficial. So again, I'm not here to promote, cheerlead one way or the other. I'm simply here to provide you guys with this information. I will tell you this, that there's some DOC counties, specifically Becker County, who has approached their board and explained to them, you know, kind of the delivery systems of where they're going. What does that mean? Becker and Monoman are pretty well attached up in that region. They're both felony offices. I don't know if there's an angle, they're looking to go in a different direction. I have no idea. But I know that there's talk. I've always encouraged all the commissioners in each one of the counties, you know, when you go to your meetings, talk with folks, you know, if you can get to hear the guys from Otter Tail County and Polk County specifically and ask them, how are things going? You know, on this transition and what were kind of your decisions to go in those directions? I think it's always beneficial, the more you know, the more you can share and whatnot is imperative, so.
Another thing too, Tony, is that if we can talk, you know, we're at a meeting where the other 5 counties, you know, that we're all in this together, you can talk to the commissioner there too, to see what their thoughts are
Yeah,
on going one way or the other.
you know, like I said, and I talked to the DOC supervisor, Dale Arnold. If you guys are on that criminal justice advisory meeting, we're both on there, you know. We do work rather well together. When he started, he said, you know, I kind of like the way this is set up. And I said, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with it whatsoever. It works well as long as it's continued to be beneficial to the communities and work forward. You know, going forward, what does this look like? Again, we do have one county and it's specifically the county attorney, her and I have had several conversations over this. They're feeling a little left out that they haven't replaced their agent back out in that region, right? So, you know, there's more of a movement in that direction. But I think right now, everybody is kind of just comfortable and waiting to see what, you know, November and the first of the year brings and go from there. I never want to put the counties in a position that all of a sudden, now we don't have the funding support from the state, and now it's going to be me coming to the boards asking for $75,000 to offset costs, right?
Well, if you go the other route where you're adding additional staff, it's no longer 75,000 you're asking.
Correct.
At that point, it's gonna be the 125, 150,000.
Yep. And I have been asked this, you know, what would it look like? And I flat out, it's a minimum right now. You know, with myself, I have 2 agents. We did this for a number of years of just 2 agents. So we did add another agent, but if you take out a felony caseload, that's a whole nother mechanism, and that's at least 3 more agents, full-time agents. The staff is one thing, adding the staff is a component. But in this region out here, because there's just not a lot of people to pull from, so what you wanna have is good quality people that wanna come out here, stay out here. That's the trick to any of this, right? Getting people who have ever been from here or understand what this environment looks like out here. So it's getting good quality people as well, so.
I have one other thing. When you do place someone on out-of-home placement, that we get an email notification, I'm not worried about who the person is, then what the plan is. Cause currently we'll get a bill and it'll be $20,000, but we don't know, was that 3 months ago? Is that current? Is this for 2 weeks or is this 2 weeks of a 6-month stay? You know, so we can, for our budgeting purposes.
So budget, yeah, we can work on something of what that would look like. I can just tell you, on average, you're looking at anywheres from $8,000 to $12,000. So anything above $12,000, most likely multi-monthal, yeah, most likely multi-monthly billing. But typically, these auto placements will bill every single month.
Right, but when we get a bill, we don't, okay, is that the first month or is that the whole stay?
Sure.
Do we have 4 more anticipated months coming up?
Okay. We can probably figure something out. And like I've said before, that is, I don't know your makeup of costs across the board, right? The county costs are significant.
So, well, that line item, we have it, it's its own entity in our overall, in our general fund.
Yep. And
So it's not associated with the department.
okay. And it's probably one of the least predictable across the board.
And everybody sees a big bill and panic.
Yeah.
Going, is this the first of 6 months or?
When I started Traverse County, within 5 months, I had 6 kids. It just happened. And I mean, these kids were stealing cars and wrecking cars and breaking into things. So within the first 6 months, I had 6 kids in out-of-home placement for up to a year. And I think they thought, what did this guy do? Right? You know, you can't predict that behavior. I mean, it's people.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, but, we're gonna stop, but, I just wanna make sure, Tony, that everybody knows that this is a 5 county deal. And if anything gets changed, it has to be all 5 counties agreeing,
Correct.
right?
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
it will be a consensus, under the joint powers umbrella, it's a consensus, so 3 counties agree, the other 2 are in. It's just, it's a consensual thing, so.
Okay.
I'll leave a couple cards, if you guys have any information, or any requests for information or further discussion, go ahead and call me, get hold of me. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before I ask for the public comment, I just wanna make one little statement here. We had a tragedy up on I-94, this, weekend where several people lost their lives. And I just wanna make sure that everybody knows that we're thinking about those families that lost their families, the members, and, we're also thinking about our EMS, crews that were out there, the fire departments, the first responders, extricating people out of vehicles, and, the Lifelink helicopters that came in, to transport the injured to the hospital. And, also I wanna say, I wanna think about the family members of these responders that go out there, the law enforcement people, and, because they see in the faces of their loved one what they just went through. And, so we're fortunate to have the responders we do, because there was a lot of them out there. And I just wanna tell them thank you. Okay, so public comment. Does anybody have any public comments that they wanna talk to us about today? Any public comment? I don't see any.
I got some comments.
Okay,
It's on the, sheriff's budget. I prepared sheriff's office or sheriff's department budget and something for you guys to look at. Since I think we all need to do our due diligence as, public officials to do research. You guys don't need to review it today. But yeah, it's a plan to reduce our sheriff's office staff from the current levels to get in line with what we can afford. And it's listed in there what's compared to other counties of comparable size. And it also shows financially how we can do it, how we can do it scheduling. I think we can do a better job of scheduling our deputies. And we reduce the hours of service to I forget what I did there, 20 hours instead of 24. But yes, this isn't the only issue we have within the county, but this is a start. And so yeah, I just gave that for you guys to review. If you like an email of it, I can send you the PDF. And you can have it in your file. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
good. Is there any other public comments?
I got a question for Mr. Carlson.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, you put a lot of work into this. Was it mainly with your financial hat on, or your public service hat, or did you wear both?
Pardon me?
Was the work you did, was it mainly with your financial hat on, or a public service hat, or did you wear both?
Well, it's like lots of things. In life, there's things we always want, right? We always want lots of things. Hell, I want to keep 3 schools open. Hell, I'd love to have 15 deputies, whatever. I want a 8,000 square foot house. what can we afford? So to answer your question, yes, both. And that's why I did research, there's research in here. This is not an op-ed. It's a plan, derived from sources, from the state, other counties, everything. So this is not an op-ed. This isn't Boone Carlson saying, I think we gotta do this because of this. This is a plan laid out. Scheduling is actually, I showed how we can schedule these deputies based upon how other counties do it. Cause from one thing I noticed, with our political system, especially local level, we all come in here and saber rattle and maybe create some change, but unless somebody's gonna put together a plan, nothing gets changed. So that's why I went home after, I don't know, a while ago and started thinking about how we could do this, cause I know that's always the question. It's not that people don't agree with you. Everybody sits there and says, well, how are we gonna do it? So I put together the how. And this is just a starting point, I mean, for you guys, it's your decision, but I just felt it was something to put together. Everything gets started with something on paper. And from there, it can be a better plan. And I think it can even be better than this, but that's with your guys' input and help. But I truly believe, like I said last time I was here, you guys been given an opportunity with the cities being disgruntled about the contracts to really comb through this budget and really see what we need for deputies in this county and what we can afford. And how do we still keep a level of service that's satisfactory to what we have. And the other thing the taxpayers don't understand is, from what I can understand, the new building isn't even in the sheriff's budget, so that we still gotta pay for that. And the staff. You know, we all live in a real world. That's like having your house for free, right? My house is in my budget. If I'm gonna build a bigger house, I might have to make some cuts somewhere else. Yeah, that was a long answer, sorry.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, no problem. No, no, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, approval of the agenda.
So I talked to you previously about adding under human resources, the deputy treasurer discussion.
Yep.
I'd like to add that in. We shouldn't need any more time.
So let's see, where would be, okay. All right. Okay,
Then with that, I'd make a motion to approve the agenda.
Troy makes the motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Doyle seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We've got a second.
Second.
Second by Bill. All, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same motion. Motion carried. Approval of the warrants.
Motion to pay the bills, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Bill made a motion to pay the bill, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Troy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. So we'll move into the discussion of the Grant County wind energy ordinance. We were presented with some material there. The pros and cons.
Reed is online. He's at a conference, but he is online, has had,
Okay,
so if there's questions for the materials, he is available.
okay. So you guys, we all read our information there. Some good points, pros and cons, I guess. I guess the only thing I was looking at was, you know, if we do nothing, you know, some things could probably happen that we, probably wouldn't, like or whatever, so I don't know, I guess I'm thinking wouldn't be a bad idea to probably have a moratorium for a year to start working on this, you know, we'd have to start working and looking at stuff, but, that's just my thoughts. Everybody else got any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess I have a question. I don't have a problem with moratorium, I mean, that it's there to gather more information. But I would have a problem if we were to change our ordinance order.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So I mean, is the timing of the moratorium now, knowing that we're gonna spend the next, let's say, 6 months on solid waste before we would get to the wind, you could run out of moratorium before you get anything done. I don't know the answer to any of that, that's my concern. I don't have a problem doing it, it's just I would question the timing to get closer to being done with the solid waste before we put it on. I don't know the answer to that.
I got a question, Mr. Chair, and maybe you guys can, you know, fulfill that question. These federal credits are shrinking as we speak for some of these, you know, these companies that wanna come in and do this kind of stuff, right? So it's just gonna be an investment groups that are gonna plug this in and try to keep that alive and well and, you know, moving forward. So if the government doesn't get involved with this stuff, you know, I have to believe that, and I've talked to the people that own the Roseville stuff down there, you know, it ain't what it was cracked up to be. It was a good sales pitch in the beginning. But in the end, is it, you know, they got their money back and that's about it. So,
Yeah, and I don't know all about the federal, I know that there was a federal tax credit that you had to start a project by July 1st. They did remove dirt up there with the backhoe, so to me, that means they started the project. I don't know all the details about when it has to be complete and my worry was just with all the communication they were having with Reed, it sounded like they wanted to do something very soon. I have been checking with the CUP or with the PUC and I don't see that anything has been, no application has been filed yet, but that doesn't mean it's not in process, so. It's just not actually filed yet.
there isn't transparency enough is what you're saying.
Right, and that's my worry, yeah.
I was told that they had some meetings down in Wheaton, this is a couple of years ago. And the general public was not invited, you know, so there were some people that walked in and they knew that they would probably be a negative feedback from it. And they were told to leave. So they're not being very transparent with what they're doing
Yes,
here,
that-
you know, and so a moratorium, I support 100%. You know, and I'm a big fan of, you know, growth and where we're at and what's happening, but, you know, I have to believe that we should be looking at nuclear more than wind or solar. Just because it isn't sustainable long term. That's the way I see it. We got land in this county that we should be raising food on, not worrying about the wind. That's where I'm at with that.
I had a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Reed, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
To follow up to Commissioner Johnson's comment in the chart that 2028 estimated adoption. in relation to the proposed potential moratorium, address that, because it feels like we have a potential gap in what can happen. There's something in that comment, the question that you had, and we gotta have you address that.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of, Troy mentioned that we've been working on solid waste here for a little while. The hope is that there are all those changes we've been discussing at solid waste and some of the ones we've been making along the way here will all be ready to go January 1st to 28th. What that means is all that ordinance stuff that we've been leading up to has to be done, signed, adopted, everything by that time. You know, and there's a lot of timelines there that you have to meet. Excuse me. So that's kind of the part. There's not a gap to me anywhere where we're not working on an ordinance for the next couple of years. We just finished that admin ordinance. We have the buffer one coming very shortly with the state dumping out their new model with the statute changes in 24. There is some potential changes here coming with shoreland because of the public waters inventory, and they started that in May with no timeline of when that will be. That kind of gives us half of 26 maybe-ish and all of 27 to do solid waste. That's on top of the everyday normal things that we do. Right now, I don't have time to even start working on most ordinances most of the time. You know, I pick at it for an hour or a couple hours here, and then I'm off to who knows what, like today off to a conference for a couple of days here. So, and then as far as the start work, the folks over in Roseville there started a couple months ago. They reached out. They've been talking for a while. They were all gung ho about 18 months ago, and then all of a sudden it kind of, with federal credits and then with some other things inside their business that just kind of slow rolled them. They've just been kind of holding steady with nothing right now. The last I had talked to them, they had no plans. They don't know what their plan is. They did a couple weeks ago go and dig a 5 foot by 60 foot wide hole. Basically, it slopes to the bottom as what they would call start work. But in all of their documentation, it basically is a start work as far as meeting federal credits, not start work as actually committing to doing any sort of project whatsoever.
So if we did the 18-month moratorium, that gets us to basically round into January of 28. We can't
Correct. It gets you to the same time.
We can't have an ordinance completed by January 28. What happens in the interim? If there's applications, if there's projects or facing what?
Currently, our ordinance meets all state requirements. There is abilities, they do require a PUC permit. There's abilities to comment there and add conditions from the county board or from the PAC. They need a conditional use permit. We can add conditions there. So say the setback is 200 feet. Well, say the county board feels it should be 500. You can add that condition when you guys approve or don't approve the application. That's one of those conditions you can add. But that's kind of my deal there. Even if we start now, your timeline is about the same, maybe a little sooner if you do the moratorium, but not really, because it all depends on the timeline of a lot of other things, a lot of ordinances. So, and the plan, remember, if you look at that priority list, is to take those 4 ordinances, public utilities, wind, solar, and the tower ordinance, and mash them all together similarly to what they did in Stevens County to make kind of a energy ordinance of types of some sort, just so that we don't have to have myself or Ruben or the landowners and taxpayers go through 4 different ordinances for one project. It kind of spells out exactly what it is, what they need, how it works.
Any other questions or thoughts?
So, yeah. Wonder this, how long can a moratorium last? Yeah, quotes a statute and it says up to 1 year initially, and then it says up to 18 additional months. If more study or planning is needed. But when I'm reading that, that means it could be a year and a half, 2.5 years, right, Reed?
That's my understanding. I know the second time you push for that extension, though, you need to have some pretty good documents and reasons why. it can't just because, well, I didn't have time to do it in that first year. That's not really a good reason to, you know, the folks who are applying or even to the rest of the public too, on why things haven't moved.
So basically, we would have a year, and if we wanted to extend that, we'd have to show some pretty good information as to why we're doing that. And, yeah.
So, once again, I gotta ask another question.
Yep.
Of the board. So we've heard from people that are for a moratorium or potentially against the expansion of wind, right, large. And I don't know if we're planning the way for us to make a decision today, but should we have heard from those who might be for it? I just feel like if I gotta say yea or nay, I don't know if I'm ready to, and maybe I missed something, but I just gotta be honest,
Yeah, well, I suppose the people that are for it, they know that we're having these meetings. And, I don't see them here, but, you know, I guess, I wasn't planning on a motion today, but, I'm certainly leaning towards, doing that. But, you know, I think we should, but, you know, they do know that we're meeting on this, and I would think that they would have approached us, the coordinator or whatever, to get on the agenda and argue that a little bit, because I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's pro people out there. That's just how it is on every issue, so.
So one more question, Reed, do you have a recommendation?
I think my recommendation kind of was that priority plan. That was kind of the whole idea behind the plan, was to try and show kind of what our outlook looks like for the next couple of years here. Yeah, it's subject to change and things come up and you shift things around, but at least the immediate ones are, we've started making some pretty good jumps in some solid waste and the messaging and education and all that one has to be next. And that one is you know, from the AD's ordinance, that's going to take quite a bit of work just to get it, you know, into a readable, you know, usable thing. Right now it's pretty difficult to use. So I either one is fine. I agree with the folks in the room that something needs to be done with the wind ordinance. But I think always about timeline when. But no, I don't have either one. That is up to you guys.
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question, and this is a question for Reed too. Do you think we should get everybody in the room that is directly affected, whether it's a pro or a con, and get a meeting this coming winter and put it all together? So everybody can voice their opinions and their concerns and the whole 9 yards, and then get a face-to-face time with this and do it like maybe in that Herman area, being Stevens County is probably, you know, directly affected as well, and then they could maybe show up. And we can hold this thing in like Herman or maybe the school or something or whatever, whoever decides where the location is, it doesn't make any difference to me, but I think we need more thought on this. And we need more people in the room.
That's
And I agree with-
that's what moratorium does.
Yeah,
Gives you more time.
it does. I agree with that, but we should, to Ken's point, get more people in the room. You know what I mean? To just see the pros and cons and where things are at versus shutting it down.
You're not shutting anything down. A moratorium just gives you 12 months to come up with the plan.
Correct. I get that part.
Bill, I don't, if you don't mind, I don't want it to turn into a, I hate wind, she loves wind. This is an ordinance issue. We have a very old ordinance. This isn't about, we don't want it, because wind is a very emotional thing for a lot of people. And I don't want to see it get to that point where it's just a big fight over who wants wind and who doesn't. To me, I brought this up to you guys because our ordinance it's old and it just needs to be updated. It's not about loving or hating wind ordinances. If they do proceed with the Hoffman one or even a new one out by us, we don't have an ordinance in place to support any kind of restructuring or a new wind farm anywhere in the county.
Yeah, the townships addressed any of this as well, either?
We haven't had to, but just like you guys waiting for Travis County to come up with their ordinance, we would just wait to see what you guys would adopt. Because obviously, as a township,
Well, like I said, I support a moratorium. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, moratoriums are easy, you set it, and then it gives you time to figure it out. Like Charity said, we already have an ordinance in place, that's outdated,
I agree.
and the moratorium just says, all right, moratorium. No new projects, because we're in the process of updating our ordinance, that's all it does. That's why there's the 18-month, you know, like you said, that's at the end of 12 months. If you don't have your ducks in a row, you just can't take the next 18, because in the past, that had been used as a stall tactic against projects, any project. That's why it's 12 months, and within 12 months, we'd have to get that done, update the
Are you
ordinance.
saying we won't till 28? That's one point.
Right, that's my concern is I came here 2 years ago and asked for it to be revised and was said, well, let's wait until Stevens and Travers come up with one. And that's why I came forward again, because I got nervous with, like, we're 2 years out from when I was here and now we're 2 years out from now to get anything done. And that's why I think the moratorium should be put in place.
The discussion isn't about east wind. It is, you enact a moratorium because you've identified deficiencies in your existing ordinance to prevent the bad project from going forward.
I get it.
So back to the Boone's comment, if we're not ready in a year and it's not a stall, we could still use the 18-month if we're working on it based on Reed's scheduled time frame.
Well, Reed is right that you would have to have good reason for it, and you don't. You know, if it's a matter of, if the ordinance is drafted and you just need public comments and meetings, then you would extend it, you know, not for 18 months, you might be extending it for 3 months to finish up the work that you need to get done.
But Justin, if say some company was trying to get a permit, they could press you on, what are you doing here extra, right? I mean, show us what you're doing then.
Correct.
And we would have to show that we've been working on this.
Yep.
So if you're not, they're gonna probably slip through the cracks on that one.
Right, but I trust that Reed will work on it.
Yeah, well, he's saying he doesn't really have time, you know, but I understand, you know, sometimes we probably have to try to get something going, but,
So Reed, another question, it's not a matter of if, it's when, would you agree?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a when thing. And I'll point out Charity did come, a couple years ago. I was around then. Between the time she came and the time we voted recently, that's when the whole solid waste thing was shifted to. And that's when we started to take time to go through solid waste and realize I'm operating at pretty much a 40, 50 year, look back for a while now. And everybody in the county, cost wise, budget wise, everywhere. That's where we said, hey, this ordinance needs to. And then that led to, okay, if towns where the next pieces and dominoes fall for which ordinances are next.
these other counties that are working on this, do they have moratoriums going?
They're done, well, Travis County's done. Cause I went.
Stevens County did not.
Pardon me? Travis County went to the moratorium 2 years ago, then they took the 12 months to draft their new ordinance, which is now in place.
That was Stephen?
Travis,
Okay,
Stevens never had a moratorium in place.
okay.
They
But they're
came up
working
with
on
one pretty quickly.
they came up with, and, well, like we've all been involved, not all of us, but in government, lots of times. We did in our North Ottawa, we adopted a ordinance, feedlot ordinance. We didn't draft the damn thing. We went to another township that had one
Similar.
similar to what would work for us. And we read through it and adopted it. And I think the county can do the same. We can read through Traverse's county, you know, we can,
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What does the Traverse County ordinance state? Where is that, where is that lay? And where, you know, is there teeth in it or, you probably have read it, right? I
Yeah,
haven't seen it,
and-
so I don't know.
I guess I'll yield to Charity. She knows more, detail on the whole
It's
detail.
very extensive, yes, and so is the Stevens County one, so they're both online, you can go, I mean, I think they're 34 pages long, the Traverse County one.
Are they pro or against?
They can't be either. They're there to protect the public interest. So what happens is, Fly's old ordinances might have been drafted without the knowledge that we have today. The height of the towers, the length of the blades, or the size of the solar farms. Setbacks weren't far enough on old ordinance, because nobody thought, you know, it wasn't an issue, so nobody really cared. But I can tell you, nobody wants a wind tower within half mile of their house. But those are the type of things that were addressed. Disposal, those types of issues. How do we get rid of them when they're shot? Those type of things are addressed. I think, when ordinances get updated, a lot of it just with new knowledge that we have today, that we didn't have 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, we can't put ordinances in place to stop projects. We put ordinances in place to protect the public interest. Actually, and then the state government will, if your ordinance is too strict, somebody who wants a project can take your ordinance to the state and say, hey, this isn't right. They're basically just blocking the whole thing. And the state can override you. So you kind of want to find that line where you're protecting the public interest, but still within the rule of law.
Mr. Chair, I guess I got one question before we move on. Ideally, the goal is a completely rewrite of the ordinance. Would updating the ordinance in the interim, so we've talked about setbacks and I don't know what exactly they are. Let's say they're 500 feet, but we're talking about an 800-foot tower. Would updating those setbacks allow us to proceed to, you know, we get into January and now we put that moratorium on with the plan of getting the ordinance rewritten? You know, can we resolve some of these issues with an update rather than a complete rewrite?
That's
I think you want more than just the setbacks in place, because the road use is a huge problem too. If they were to come in to repower those 10 turbines down there with big cranes and all things, it can really affect roads and if they went bankrupt next year, then guess what? It's your problem to fix all those roads up that they wrecked. So it's not just about the setbacks. There's many things that go into the ordinance. I'm not opposed to, you know, if we are worried that the Hoffman one is gonna be repowered, put some setbacks in right now, but I still feel like you're just kicking the can down the road and just creating more work for Reed or whoever has to do the interim ordinance, I guess.
Reed, are you still on?
Yep, I'm still here.
So option 3, under cons, you got revision to this ordinance isn't until 28. Potential for projects before with no ability to pause them. Is that
Correct. When you do a moratorium, you basically are pausing any more development of said whatever that moratorium is on. They can't do anything now until that ordinance has been updated. There are some different ways of if a project has been applied for, whether or not that pauses or not is kind of case by case. Currently, we have no projects proposed, no new wind farms or anything like that. Current folks who have them, there's things they could do. Even if we did update the ordinance, they would require nothing from us. There are things they could do that would require things from us. That was in that other ordinance fact sheet that's also part of the board packet.
So, but my question was, your option 3, was that assuming that there's an interim moratorium in place?
No. My assumption was that we didn't do one and that we rolled with the previously talked about plan. And then because our ordinance does still meet all the state requirements, we still have some teeth in different ordinances or other things that we would be incorporating into the update or the revamp. but no, that was my assumption was not.
I follow that.
I never get it either.
So my assumption was that we would not have a moratorium and that our current ordinance covers what it needs to as far as meeting all the state minimums and still giving us the ability to, if project comes in, yep, you meet the wind ordinance, yep, you meet these ones, but you still need a conditional use permit, we can still attach on condition. And then in 28, we would start that, take all four of those, get them together, match.
Justin, could you give us a recommendation?
Well, it's up to you whether or not you're satisfied. You know, I think that there is a risk associated with not entering a moratorium and getting, you know, an application in the interim that doesn't address things. You know, this is different, but you know, there was a time, maybe a year or two ago, that, you know, all these farmers were getting mailers from solar companies and wanting these solar panels. And it was all fine and dandy, but, you know, the bond to remove those panels didn't kick in until after 5 years. And if, you know, a solar company is going to go belly up, or, you know, I'm assuming they're creating a separate entity for every farm that they put up, that's going to be in the first 5 years, and you're going to create big problems. You know, so, you know, there have been deficiencies that have been identified in the ordinance, and if you want to correct those without fear that you're going to be stuck with those on a project that, you know, occurs or is applied for in the interim, the best way to do that is with a moratorium.
I do agree with that because, you know, actually that's always been a concern of mine if somebody applies here. Big companies and deep pockets and things like that, so.
Mr. Chair, could I ask that you're the representative on the planning advisory from the board committee? Could you guys come up with a plan, whether it's a moratorium? You know, we come back a month from now, so not the next meeting, the one after that. And let's have a plan. Is it, we're gonna put a moratorium on right away, we're gonna put one on in December? I mean, let's have a better idea of a plan of how we're gonna get this accomplished.
Yeah, we could do that. Reed could call that meeting and we can do that because, yeah, I just think that there should be a moratorium. But we can plan that, and if we can get by for another month, that gives us another month on the other end, I guess.
I've got another question for Justin. You stated the risk factor. If there's someone waiting in the wings following this decision today and present us with a plan, are we too late for what Troy and Dwight just addressed?
Yep.
There you go. Well, if there's risk, the risk then lies on us today.
Well, the other side of that is if you don't have a plan and you get right back here in 2027, and we don't have an ordinance rewritten, it's under the old one.
Yeah.
The one that's the same as today's. I mean, the odds of from what I've read, the odds of getting that 18-month extension is you gotta be waiting for a study that won't be done.
But the risk of not getting it done is less than the risk of someone proposing a plan that we can't do anything about.
Well, it'd be the same, you get here on July 22nd of 2027, if we put it on today and we don't have that ordinance done, which the information we've been given is saying it probably won't be. We're operating under the exact same rules.
Why couldn't it get done?
The information we've got currently is saying that that's not, and the board has adopted this plan, that is number 3 on our priority list with the completion of, well, it says 27. No, that's solid waste.
How long would it
Says
take,
28.
how long would it take to get another county's ordinance and review it and make changes? I mean, honestly. We're not reinventing the wheel.
Okay, well, with that, we're gonna set this on the agenda for August 18th. And the planning commission can, we'll meet and then we'll make a recommendation. That sound okay?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Am I sure?
Are you sure we should delay it?
Oh, I see. Okay, well,
Well, if we listen to council
yeah,
and risk. So we're willing to apply the risk factor, put it on the next, just saying, are you sure?
Well, I'm not hearing a motion.
well, I can if somebody wants to entertain a motion, I'll do that.
So is Reed, are you still on?
Yep, I'm still here.
So we did something and back to Troy's comment, we got July 22nd of 2027. Is it possible to delay one and fast track another to get something in place?
I think it's more likely that we end up working on both. You can't not do one to do the other because then you just delay the rest of it. Solid waste, we have been planning since we were given solid waste in 24. Wind, because it was a newer ordinance than majority of the other ones minister was picked for a later date. We can make things shufflings around, but I have a feeling that we're going to be asking for that extension when it comes to July.
Reed, I got a question for you. If we pass this moratorium today, would that be one of the first things that you would look at then is getting a hold of Traverse County's ordinance?
I have copies of Travers and of Stevens County ordinances. They're online, or easy peasy. What today you'd be doing is telling me that you and Tina that you want to do a moratorium, and then you need to do the whole moratorium process with noticing and all that. It's an ordinance, it's an interim ordinance. So that has to get, taken from somewhere, updated to be what we need it to be, and then brought back to a public meeting with the correct timeline, and then done again. So the date wouldn't start until all of that has happened.
Okay, well,
I have a question, not just in moratoriums in general. Can a person, company or individual, can they still apply for a special use permit within a moratorium process?
Depends what they're applying for.
Okay, I would just, I don't know why I thought that in my head right now, I just said, no. If somebody was to
I
come
think
forward,
they can, but it can't be approved because there's a moratorium in place.
oh, okay.
okay, so. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'd make that motion that we do the 1 year moratorium to limit our risk and we get to work.
Okay, Kenny made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Now, you're talking about an intern moratorium, correct? Okay.
Okay, so Bill seconded that motion. Any further discussion?
So you mean to get the process started?
Yeah.
Cause yeah, there's things that gotta be done.
Done, we got a hearing,
Yeah.
there's a lot to it.
Whatever, how we heard.
Yeah, it is a
Recommendation from Justin, we've had a lot of discussion and I understand the date. I think we have an opportunity to limit that risk. Even if it's only 30 days worth of risk, there may be.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll have the coordinator do a roll call here on this.
Great. Doyle,
Alright,
Bill,
Aye.
Dwight,
Aye,
Troy,
Aye.
Ken,
okay, motion carried. All right. So we're a little bit over on that one, but it was good discussion. All right, so, we'll move on then, Commissioner Johnson, Troy, Planning Advisory Committee application.
So you read in the board cover sheet that we've got two applicants for it, and we're, to my knowledge, we haven't had this before, so how does the board wanna proceed? Cause does the board wanna spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes talking with the applicants? Do they want me to do that, the personnel committee? How do we proceed? We've got two applicants. And we need direction on how to proceed to narrow that down to the one.
Okay. Well, I read the one, yeah, we read them, they both had their narrative in there, so. I don't know, any thoughts on that, how to go about with that?
So we would be making a decision, not just based on what, with these applicants, but basically a long-term decision, because this could occur in the future also.
Right, I mean, to my knowledge, we've never had two applicants for the same spot on the board, so what I would say the answer is for the District 1 PAC member would be the same answer for the strategic plan. Which that doesn't have a district tied to it, but
Well, we used to, you know, like in our districts. Before we had this formal procedure, but we would just nominate somebody and. So I would say that. Leave it up to you.
and that's fine, I would like to meet with both of them before
Yep.
I would come forward, I just didn't. Want to go through that process and then have the board say, no, we should all, I'm open to whatever.
I think they should come in front of the board. I think that's the start of a, you know, it's a professional setting, you know, and it is government, you know what I mean? So it would be good to do some FaceTime with them. I think, that's my personal
And I'm
opinion.
fine with that too.
I think we should have the personnel committee make a recommendation.
So there's our third option, right?
Yep.
Doyle, do that one?
Yeah, I do, I said, being they're gonna be on the planning advisory committee, I think they should interview them. They know what they want, or they should know what they want, I would think.
Well, there's four. I'm kinda out of options there. So,
I'm gonna go with Doyle's.
yeah,
I'm going with Doyle's.
So that like, yeah, the horse.
Well, then I'll make that motion.
okay,
I'll second it.
okay, you got that, Tina, the motion?
In a roundabout way.
motion was made by Doyle, seconded by Troy, and carried to have the PAC Planning Advisory Commission make a recommendation to the Grant County Board for the District 1 seat.
Yeah.
Interview and make a recommendation, okay? All right, that's the motion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay,
So same question, but for strategic planning.
yes,
I would point out there is a difference,
Yep.
right? Because our Planning Advisory Commission, each district has a representative that sits on that board. The Strategic Planning Committee is made up of department heads, 2 commissioners, and 3 public seats. So it is a little bit different, and I just wanted to make sure to point that out, and also to point out the fact that it's a good problem to have. This is the first time we've had multiple applicants for seats on county boards, which is good.
well. I guess. That could probably be the full board, I guess. But, there's only one applicant, right?
No, there's 2 for this.
Oh,
If
two.
it was one, you just proceed with,
Oh, I thought there was 2 for the,
there's 2 for both of them.
oh, there is. I didn't scroll down on the second one far enough. Okay. So. Yeah, I think the board probably should make the decision on that one. That's my thought. Bring them in front of the board.
Give each of them 5 minutes and
Yeah. Yeah. We okay with that? Do we need a motion on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, we'll bring them in front of the board then, when Tina can get that set up, so. Okay, moving on. Human resources.
The need here.
I won't be presenting on the MOU because I have not heard of the work with the union on that. So I'll bring that back when we get an agreement with the union. The added agenda item was the treasurer position, so we have a finance technician position. We have, well, two were approved in the treasurer's office, however, we have not filled the full-time finance tech position. We do have a maternity leave coming up in the fall. And instead of hiring a permanent full-time, just because there's not enough work to justify a full-time. We're looking to hire a temporary full-time finance technician to cover the maternity leave. And then we also have a temporary part-time that comes in, but we have to stay under the amount of hours. And the days that this individual has left will not cover the maternity leave. So we're looking for a full-time temporary finance tech position to fill that maternity leave, which would be done, would end in the spring or
I think we said June 1st was what we were.
yeah. And then the office would go back to normal function after that.
So I would make a motion to have a temporary full-time position in place of one of the full-time positions. Be unfilled.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second it.
Will second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign, motion carried.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Next up would be law enforcement finance options.
Mr. Chair, I gotta vote for that, so
Okay,
we gotta play about.
all right. Keep it in there.
That's all right. So that. The excess wages were, remember, we pulled all of the wages and wage related expenses out of the budget last year when we approved it, there was just a wage. This amount here was all the excess, once they were plugged into the budget. So that is just the excess. We lowered it down. This is just this one.
Everybody gotta go to, why do that?
It's its own message, excess wages, it's its own line now. It will always run that. No, this is, we're amended up to it. There's the budget plus rate, they'll be through that, yeah, all or not.
I didn't do now.
So this.
You know, I'm going to. Again, I'm for the type of thing, a livable unit, so based on that, roughly 3,000 livable units, 350 would come through, you'd have an additional 160 per house, area or parcel or whatever. For now, that's it, that's the city. That's in the cities, I think of the city contract covers the 342. But we use 350 for those.
No, so it was sent when we sent it. It's gotten back in, so.
Okay, law enforcement finance options. Troy, you,
Yeah, man.
Just 1 second. So in the packet was Elbow Lakes letter, and you guys received by email the letter from Jeff Neighbor from the city of Herman. So you guys all received that letter, so you have that letter with what his proposal was. And then the letter from Jeff Olson from Elbow Lake.
okay,
Was already here. We didn't.
yeah, that was a couple, 3 weeks ago.
We had that right before the last meeting.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
So yeah, my name's on there, you know, our timeline originally when we started this process discussion, I believe back in May. That in July, we would start eliminating options. We also talked about putting dollar figures, I know we had them before, but putting dollar figures with decisions. Obviously, you know, there's now a proposal from Herman and an offer from Elbow Lake, which would, it's not reflected in either one of these documents, but you can figure out, I mean, if you're talking half of the income, then the the values, the impact would be half, right? So that was just getting this back in front of the board to see if there was options we wanted to eliminate. You know, I would like to have us pretty narrowed down on the path we wanna go by the end of August, so we have budgeting time. So that'd be really nice to have a rough preliminary budget in August. I don't know that that's gonna happen, but it would be nice, so. You know, that we've had the Herman and the Elbow Lake one, and I'm not in favor of those options. So let's say currently we have a $60 an hour loaded rate and we're charging 58 for a deputy. there's $2 an hour that's being covered by the county for patrol time in a municipal, let's use Barrett. $2 an hour, so if we went to the half the rate, which would be $28 an hour more, then we now have $30 an hour covered by the general fund for a patrol hour in Barrett. 21 of that becomes just bare agricultural land at 70, to 70% of it. So every hour that would be patrolled in Barrett would be $21 would be coming off of the Barrett land. So if you have 6,000 hours of patrol time for the year, we can all do math.
No. So, and so my 2 cents worth is that too, I don't agree with either offer. My biggest problem is putting, first off, everybody knows my opinion on city contracts. They're a good deal for the cities. There's no doubt about it. They don't have any liability, they don't have equipment, they don't have personnel issues. They have nothing other than to say, go talk to the sheriff if there's a problem, okay? And I understand that. If I was on a city council, I would love that. Because it just takes the liability off of the towns and everything else that comes along with police protection. So with that being said, I'm not in favor of putting anything more on the farmer's tax on the 83% of the county to pay for police protection in these towns. City of Ashby, I want police protection in Ashby. I want it, and I'm willing to pay for it there. But I don't wanna pay for Elbow Lakes or Barrett's or Hoffman or Herman. They need to take care of that themselves. And then there's always this argument of we're paying double. Well, I can tell you this, the calls come into these towns because there's people living there. That's where your dog complaints are, that's where your unsightly premises are. Neighbor disputes, people problem, okay? And most of the people in Grand County is there's some, I don't know what the ratio is, but there's way more people in the towns than out in the county. And when I was a sheriff for 22 years, and law enforcement for 31 years, we didn't answer a lot of calls out in Logan, Lawrence, North Ottawa. There's not many calls out there. Yeah, once in a while, there's some serious stuff. And we go ahead and they go handle that. But the majority of the calls for service are in the town. You got the parades, you got all of that stuff, which needs to be taken care of, which is a good deal. So yeah, I don't know what we can do here. I take like Stevens County, they went full county law enforcement down there. And I asked the question, well, I didn't ask anybody down there, but I found out that basically that Morris just turned over their levy to the county. They didn't come in there for a reduced rate. So I don't know what the options are here. If we don't get this levy, because it's so important, that 300 and whatever it is, 350,000, that's a couple deputies, deputy and two and a half deputies maybe. So, and the bottom line is there's less law enforcement in this county today than there was 40 years ago when I started here. Yeah, there was only 2 deputies, but the cities all had police and they were our backup. They helped us a lot. And, so yeah, I would be, when I was on duty back in 86 through whatever, probably 5 or 8 years, maybe. When I was working, I was the only guy out in the county. But when I had troubles, Billy's dad would come out and help me, Al. City of Ashby, Hoffman was out, Barrett, Kenny Moe, and Marlon Riley down in Herman. So, there was a sense of security that way a little bit. And they were good backup too. But, if we get into reduced deputies, And, you get one guy out there, now you got the whole county. Somebody gets sick or whatever, you know, you got some issues there that would, on the safety end of it, so. So that's my spiel, I don't know what we can do about it, but the cities are getting a good deal here.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at the analytics costs. We talk about the city. Irregardless of whose name is prepared by, it happens to be Boone Carlson, he's here. Remember when he built the law enforcement center, they said it's gonna be good for 50 to 100 years. Remember? If we don't at least look at some opportunities, and I haven't studied what Boone's got here. But if we truly believe that we're gonna operate the same with technology and we'll, in this county in the future, we have to look at some operational savings and not just look at how to pay for the same old. And so we would be truly missing the boat if we don't look at that piece and then apply how we're gonna pay for it.
Wait, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are there, and that's just, I would agree with you, I think the cities have gotten a hell of a deal for a long time, I mean, look at what they pay. I mean, it's pretty reasonable, right? Are they, now, I'm not in the city, are they opposed to paying anything, or were they just afraid of paying more, or what's their concern, or what were you guys asking the cities to do, I guess, you know what I'm getting at, so. If a city was paying $30,000 a year, were you looking at raising that, or were they still wanting to be able to, would they still pay the 30? Would they still pay the 30 today?
Well. Wanna answer that, Chuck?
Yeah, the last offer that the county made was to freeze the rate paid for this year for, I believe, 3 years. Cause we tried redoing how the cities weren't happy with the 3% increase, so we tried going to a percentage of actual. And then that was when we got into 25 and we had a large overrun. So we offered to freeze it for 3 years. Now we've had an offer since then back from what Dwight and I were addressing, when we had Herman and then Elk Lake, where they essentially wanted to have the same number of hours, but pay half of the rate of what they had been paying. So it was $58 and some change. I don't remember exactly what it was the hourly rate. Our loaded rate is, I believe, the loaded rate depends on what all you put in there, right? But I believe it would be higher than that 58, so that's where when I say it's subsidizing, that's where that comes from.
Well, for context, the budget I have in here has that money, the city's, you know, freezed where it was at, you know.
The 342,000.
What, yeah, I think I had 330 or whatever, yeah, 340, but just for context, I assume the cities would still. I can't.
So we've had a number of meetings, and what we presented here, and I believe there's copies back there, Tina, of this,
Yes, they're very cool.
is these numbers are assuming we've got 350,000 rather than the 330 or the 342. But that's assuming what the city's not signing a contract, so we're losing that revenue.
That's what worries me is. Putting that back over on the overall county. I don't think that's right, so. Bill, do you have anything?
Mr. Chair, I do. So, you know what I mean? If you wanna talk about this contract in front of us, which I don't know if you got it in front of you there, but. You know, and Deb, she's in here, the mayor of the town of Elk Lake here. Proposed that the cost of our contract with the Grant County Law Enforcement be 1/2 of the current 2026 rate. Which is 171,000. And the remaining amount from the current contract be made part of an overall tax levy for the entire county for 27 and 28. Okay, so that's what's in the city of Elk Lakes. I'm not gonna refer to Herman, they can, I guess they can talk about it themselves.
They make a comment. we offer that as a proposal. So that we can start a conversation between the city and the county. Because there are some concerns that we have about. We've had the conversation with Sheriff Whitman, and we do appreciate the service that the Sheriff's Department provides. It seems that the question at hand is about code enforcement, and code enforcement is important in all of the cities. And that's something that if we need to have a code officer employed by the city of Elbow Lake, we need to look at reducing the costs that we have for law enforcement, because that's not happening through, that's not offered through the Sheriff's Department. So that's part of the deal.
What's code? Is that
Code enforcement is
We're-
things like nuisance properties,
that ordinance with?
ordinance.
Okay.
It's a civil or administrative process.
Because what we understand is that the Sheriff's Department provides the felony coverage, which everybody pays for in the county. Our city residents pay a tax to the county. I think this is exactly what we needed to know, to see this number. Like, how does that affect our city residents if this goes, like, what would be the impact? Because I think the reality is, yes, ag land, they have more, that is taxable than a city, homeowner possibly. So, there's that piece. You say that there aren't people out in the county. When you think about the number of lakes that we have, if you look at the people that live around the lakes, that's probably more than some of the cities, but they're covered under, the sheriff's, contract. They did pay that as. And so our question is, what are the services that we've received extra that are under our contract? Are they different than the services that are received out in the rest of the county? We want equitable. So the things that a county resident, no matter if they live on a farmland, they live around the lake, receive, what are those services? And are they and do we receive the same ones? So I think there's a conversation that we need to have, and this is helpful, and that's part of it. And that's why we offer that option.
But Mayor, here's the deal, that there's way more calls in Elbow Lake than the rural county. There always has been and there always will be. Elbow Lake has the most calls for service in the county. And unless it's changed the last 9 years.
938.
So it all boils down to, you get people congregated and you've got calls. That's the deal. Yeah, there's some calls out on Palm-Terre. There's not that many, cause there's no ordinance violation. Very few dog complaints. Very few citizen disputes out in the rural Grand County because they're spaced out. And it's just a call for service above and beyond. Okay, for felonies and stuff, so. And it's time consuming, I'll tell you, I worked on ordinance violations for years. And they're difficult, that's all I can say. So.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There were 3 of us on this board currently that were here in 2017 when we added 2 cities and hired 3 deputies. And that's always been my view of the board's involvement in these contracts is, for X amount of money, we will provide the staffing for this many hours. So if we don't have the funding, I mean, that's always been my role, or my view of how this board is for that much money, we're gonna provide the staffing to do that.
And so that's exactly what I was getting at. If you look at the reduced service operating fund, they're telling us to reduce the service plan. We're just not hearing it.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't on the board in 17, but I'd have been, and I can say that now, but I'd have been, when I was a sheriff, I was really cautious about taking on any more contracts.
Well, cause originally we added 2 deputies, and what we discovered then was we were at a staffing level where you actually needed another one because of all the vacation and then you had the military, all the additional things, so it wound up being 3 instead of 2.
And they're understandable when you add manpower, you're adding overtime, holidays.
Yep.
Union, the whole ball of wax, so, and that's why I'm saying. It's not a bad deal for the town. It really isn't, but yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question for
Yeah.
the mayor again. So, have you guys ever entertained getting back into the law enforcement business and hiring your own people? Have you?
Bill, that we have not done that, no.
Okay,
And that's not to say that we don't realize that that is a much more efficient, effective, and probably less costly. Because we're thinking about the taxpayers in this city too, right?
everybody in the whole county as a whole. That's where, our mainstay is here.
And you know what, when we talk about Grand County, I was kind of curious, like how many cities are larger than the entire population of Grand County? You know, we're a small county, we're not, there's a lot of cities that aren't this size, and so it's like, there's a uniqueness to our situation and our small size. At the county level as well as at the city level, so.
Well, this is kind of, I looked over your plan here a little bit and options and things like that, well. The level of service that you're looking for, and this is a starting point, and this is what you're telling me here, but at some point, you know what I mean? You can't afford our services, and I don't know if we can afford to provide that service for you. At a reduced rate. So, you know what I mean? There's gotta be some give and take here.
Exactly.
And I think too, that there has been some, give from the county, because when they entered into this agreement with Elba Lake contract, their budget was a lot more than 170,000. So they, I don't know what they gained by coming onto the county, but it was probably 60-70,000, you see? So there's some give there from the county to the city. Ashby too, I can speak for that. They went from about $110,000 budget down into the mid-40s when they come on. And they were happy with that, and I don't know if they're still happy, but they were really happy with that. So there's been some give, there's been more give by the county than take, that's for sure. And, because we've always never charged the cities for dispatching and stuff for the fire departments, and I wouldn't wanna do that now. But that's always been out there, cause, we're all working as a team here, so. But yeah, I just know how important that funding is for the sheriff's office to, continue providing good public safety, so. Anyway. Anything else?
Well, and I don't know that the response is today, but I mean, Elba Lake has made an offer, so I think probably should put that on the agenda for the next meeting and respond to that offer.
And then Herman too then?
Well, yeah, I think they're pretty close to the same offer, but yeah, do you get that, Dean? I think we should put on the agenda to respond to Elba Lake and Herman's offer at the next meeting.
If that's what the mayor, she's saying this was a proposal, but.
This is a proposal
Right.
that we expected to have a response and have a conversation about this, yeah.
Okay,
The question, another one that I have, I noticed that Commissioner Troy, you have a meeting planned. Is that for your district only, or is that countywide?
I'm not checking where people live at the door.
Has there been any thought that maybe that would be a good thing to do in each one of the districts? To kind of see where, people are thinking? The taxpayers.
well, I guess. It just depends on who shows up. That's all I can say.
That's always the case. Who
Right.
shows up here at your at your county commissioners meeting, those are the voices that you hear.
Yeah.
Right, there, I'm not doing straw polls but yeah, it's.
So. Yeah, so Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
We're in the process, the budget committee's working hard and I'm sure the departments and the auditor. And I think we're gonna be faced with a number of unfunded mandates. In a number of departments. That's kind of what this is. And so I just think if between the public safety committee and the budget committee and the law enforcement sheriff. Fight Pond. I don't know what's in here. But if we only look at the funding side of the equation and not the cost side, we are missing an opportunity. And we'll probably need to do it in other departments. We don't just build bridges because we don't have the money. Right? We're waiting for the money. Well, we gotta look at this.
Well, if you go back to the options laid out, this addresses the funding side of it. You know, there were potential cuts in the options, right? You reduce those out, those 6,000 hours, you reduce those, that's gonna be addressing the expense side.
Right.
This is not all encompassing to solve all of our problems. This is what, if you just put that straight onto the levy or the solid waste style assessment, that's what those costs. That,
But I remember, and of course, maybe Jennifer can address. Voting for the Axon program because it was gonna use artificial intelligence and speed up this and save deputy time, and I don't know if we've. Had any savings or not.
I think you asked Justin about that.
Reports to come. Christopher, I would say, it eliminates, a lot of doubt as to what happened. I think when you were discussing Axon, I shared that, when I first started, we had deputies and squad cars and they were pulling over people for drunk driving and, we had a challenge to every stop. Then we got dash cams. And that shows you, did you hit the fog line? Did you cross the center line? And we stopped having a lot of omnibus hearings on stops. And these are capturing, everything. And I'm not suggesting that the reports weren't timely, but, when someone is arrested, you have a limited time to get them before a judge. And when you have, an event that happens at 3 AM, I think the last thing that a deputy wants to do is finish off that report and, this technology is helping that so we can get people before the court in a timely fashion. So, so it's been good for, the criminal justice system and
Okay. One other thing, I think we really gotta be careful though, because we gotta watch, officer safety out there. And that's the only thing, public safety, yeah, but officer safety too, because they're the ones confronting, these people. And, sometimes bad things can happen, and it's not an easy deal out there, so there's a lot of things to look at here, so. Okay, so how should we leave that then? Committees are gonna keep working and we're gonna set a deal for the next commissioners meeting to either, and go over those two proposals. And And then we'll either,
I guess I would also like to see us narrow down that list of options that was sent out. You know, I think there's 5, 6, 7 different options. We need to, I mean, we're gonna be in August, so we need to start narrowing down.
yeah, cause in September, we gotta set our preliminary budget. So,
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question for the mayor again. So are you guys coming with a different proposal than what's in front of us here, or is this
We
what
haven't
we?
yet had a conversation with the county. I mean, this is our proposal. Yeah, but now I think if that, or if I heard correctly. To review the options presented, would that also mean that there would be some conversation with the cities that have made a counter offer, but made a proposal?
but wouldn't that, Troy, come after our meeting where we either accept or deny, or
Yeah, we'd have to,
when you start negotiating again?
well, if we're getting into negotiations, then I'm gonna defer to Justin, is if we're gonna make a counter proposal. Then I don't know if we gotta close the meeting, or, I mean,
Well, Mr. Chair, we said if all 5 don't go in, it's a none.
Well,
So you're rolling the dice on $343,000 and they offered half.
you know,
Well, sometimes 170 is better than 0. We're not gonna address the expense side, we're just gonna talk the money side, take the 170 and distribute the rest and go on.
I think that's what Herman's, somewhat proposal was. A portion of it, right? That's that I thought I see.
Cause like I say, it's 5 or none. We said that.
yeah, well, I think we should change that myself, but I still think that if, like, say, if a city wanted to sign for the froze amount, I think we should take it. I've been thinking about that for a couple of months. Cause I don't know, but I just think that originally there was some that probably would have signed, I don't know. But,
So to answer your question, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Johnson, so say we take half. Okay, now, could the ordinances be on the cities? So then all we do is the criminal end of it, and then they take care of their ordinances? Could that be a proposal coming back? And then it's half the work, so it's half the money, so you crack the workload in half.
That's the type of thing we need to discuss. And then also I know that you said that there are more people here, but we wanna make sure it's equitable. Again, taking into account that people in Elbow Lake are already paying to the county through their county tax. And so the city then, they get another part of that is that when we want additional law enforcement. My understanding is that the county provides felony coverage. Right,
You were currently paying that and you had your own licensed peace officers, correct? You were currently paying that. The dispatches, the dispatch centers, the current law enforcement center, you know what I mean? Maybe probably, accelerated that a little bit more on some of the county taxes there. But the training, all that stuff, you guys weren't paying any of that for the deputies at that point. And you were paying insurance for League of Minnesota Cities for an umbrella coverage for insurance. And do you have that number? I've asked Jeff for it half a dozen times, he don't surface with it. So what was that true cost that you're not paying anymore? Right, so I mean, there's a lot of hidden costs, a lot of overage
I think on
costs.
both sides. And I think if we just need to look at how that affects the people in our cities. As well as the people that are not city residents that are just county residents. All of us are county residents.
Yeah.
but Mayor, I always get back to this. Why does Fergus Falls have a police department? Why does Alexandria have a police department then? Why does Battle Lake have a police department? They could just say, county, you take care of it, we pay taxes. It's because of the extra stuff that goes on in those municipalities. And I know that's a little hard to understand, but that's the reason. Is people that are requesting services and need services more so than out in the rural parts.
The other thing is, if you apply the levy concept and you're paying double, what Bill was saying is your levy was higher having your own department, just like Hoffman's was.
Correct.
Yeah,
The effect to the taxpayer in Hoffman is better today than it was.
Mhm.
So we gotta make sure that the math is spoken.
And I think like Commissioner Johnson's saying there is Hoffman came into a contract with Grant County in 1989. And they had a police department there just prior to that. And I don't know what their budget was in '89, but it probably was, close to what they're paying now. You see, with a lot less liability and stuff, and Herman the same way. I know Marlon Riley came to the county in '91. So I know that in 1990, that their budget probably would have been at least equal to the, whatever they're paying now, the 48,000 or whatever it is. So that's years ago, long time ago, and they're still not up to it, to where they are. And I know for the city of Ashby, same thing, they were happy with this, and I haven't been told that they're unhappy. So it's just that's how I see it. That's why it's a good deal for the town. Cause it's cost savings for them and a lot less headaches and things like that, so. But anyway, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting then, and we'll either say yeah or no or whatever to these proposals, okay? And with that then, does anybody else have anything else?
Well, so we're gonna put the funding piece on the agenda for next meeting, or we're gonna put the operational piece reflecting this document that presented us.
And I asked you guys to review this.
Yeah.
It might fix a lot of your, it might actually fix a lot of your problems if you look at it.
I mean, if we're gonna, and I have no problem putting it on the next agenda, but I think we have something presented to us. We shouldn't ignore it.
No.
And I'll put it on the public too, so your voters look at it too, and they'll call you.
Okay. We'll all do our homework on that and take a look at it. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on then, HRA levy request. Now I put this on the agenda, basically I know the budget committee met with the HRA. And I guess I haven't, been told what that meeting consisted of. And then Ken Marshall's letter to us about the HRA. So does somebody want to give us a spiel on how that meeting went with HRA? And the budget committee?
Well, they presented their budget and, at the beginning in it. So when you look at the letter, it says they want to be treated like a department of the county, but at their meeting, when we met with them, they stressed again that they're completely separate from the county. So I'm not sure which way that is. But they presented their budget and we said, well, that's all well and fine, because they have to do that, but it still has to come to the board, because that's what our policy is. To me, what is the difference for them and, let's say, the treasurer's office? When money's levied and given to them, we don't review bills. So the treasurer's office, we're reviewing that after the fact. So, to me, there's your difference.
Okay, so what was their proposal?
Well, I've got it in here. I mean, it's the $200,000 again, and they've got, budget breakdown for it, but our policy states they gotta come and present that here.
Okay. All right, Bill, you got anything?
I just, I'm reading what a letter from their attorney is, what, as far as compliance with the statute, can you refer to some of that, Justin, if you would? I mean, what, have we not complied, or where are we at on it?
So what the statute says is that the authority shall each year formulate and file a budget in accordance with the budget procedure of the city. You know, and in the chapter, a city refers to any, you know,
Political subdivision.
in the same manner as required of executive departments of the city, or if no budgets are required to be filed by August 1. So if the budget committee continues to have questions about the request, you know, if the budget committee had questions about my budget, there's nothing that would prevent the budget committee to say, I got questions about Anderson's budget. He needs to come and explain it to the whole board. And that is what I understand was discussed at the budget committee meeting.
Yep,
Okay,
and I don't have questions as far as a budget committee member. It's forthright and it's laid out very well, and, you know, it's got justification to it. I mean, they got a lot of buildings to maintain, and, you know, there's staffing, and there's a lot to do there. So, you know, I feel the 200,000 is a fair ask, being that they're maintaining a building outside. You know, or they're maintaining their own business model, if you want to consider that, and, you know, and staffing and everything to track all that. But there's a lot to it, and these buildings ain't getting any newer, so there's a lot of the maintenance to it. You know, flooring and faucets and this and that, and there's, you know, I mean, they've had fires and, you know, explosions and all kinds of stuff, so that 200,000 is, I have to believe is justified. That's where I'm at.
So, Mr. Chair, I just need to say, 7 months ago in December of 2025, prior to that, there was a data request by a taxpayer. And Mr. Standish addressed the need to increase the $100,000 to $200,000, and there were 7 items. Four of them were remodel the HRE current office, furniture and miscellaneous expenses associated with the remodel of the new office, maintaining their new office, utilities, grounds maintenance, and new storage of $100,000. We gave them $200,000 and they paid $180,000 for the building. So they had $20,000 over and above what we paid out of our ARPA funding, and they increased their ask by $100,000. Now, the year before that, they had $100,000 in 24, they had $100,000 in 23, and they had 75 in the 2 prior years. They did not demonstrate the need to increase it last year. Yes, they have a lot going on, but they specifically answered the request of a taxpayer with those 4 items. And they have yet to come back and demonstrate the need for the 100. And so if we're gonna run some departments through the mill, then we should run them all through the mill.
okay, well, I wasn't at the budget committee meeting, so I didn't hear what they proposed, so maybe they proposed what they're gonna use that money for, I would imagine. Am I right on that? So what do we need to do here then? Bring them in, bring it up in front of the board?
So the budget committee does not have any authority to accept that proposal.
No, but they can make a
The
recommendation.
board has a policy that says they need to come before us.
Right, okay, and I understand that, but the budget committee can make a recommendation. We've done that before too, but no, we'll,
But what I want to mention is Mr. Marshall is spending this thing in statute. Let's not forget the facts. The data was presented December of 2025. It did not lie. The current audit isn't available, but the data remains the same. And let's not be spun with legal fees and legal speak, the data remains the same.
But that's old data there now. This is new stuff, what they're proposing, so we need to hear that then. So, so we'll, Tina, let's set it up on the next board meeting, first board meeting in August. HRA can come in here and give us their spiel. How does that sound? That okay with everybody? Okay, so that would be, August 4th. All right. Anybody have anything else? We're good? All right. Okay, Grant County Budget Finance Committee Resolution. Budget amendment, and Troy has some information on that here.
Yeah, so that's a resolution just to amend the budget, so when it was passed, it still contained the 50, so the board still had $50,000 in there for the fair appropriation, which we said earlier, we wanted to be 25, so this is taking that 25, putting it in with the excess budgeted wages and benefits for countywide. So we're gonna amend the budget to have that line item be 77,133. We understand how we got there with the excess wage and budgets. Our benefits, excuse me.
Okay. You guys, we all have the information in front of us here, so.
I would make the motion to adopt resolution 2026-721-1.
Okay. Can you second it? Yep. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay. All right, so we're down to committee reports here, because we do have an afternoon session here for a couple of appropriation requests, so, but, budget committee, budget and finance committee, Troy and Bill.
Preliminary budget stuff has gotten started.
Okay. Building committee, Troy and Bill.
well, you can see that we got a bill in the mail for looks like the flooring and stuff that we did at the courthouse, so that's about where that's at.
Okay, that looks very good up there.
Yeah.
EMS committee, Bill and Dwight.
Well, we had a meeting yesterday.
Yeah, and, we're keeping on discussing things. I don't know, you wanna give a little overview on that, Tina, or?
So, Justin had provided a draft agreement that, the committee looked at yesterday and will be bringing forward to the full board, when we feel like we got it, where we want it to be in regards to, equipment that the county uses levy dollars, the capital, the ambulances and stuff that are purchased with levy funding. So that agreement, we still have some work to do on it, or review to do on it, and we'll bring that to the board when it's done. And then the committee also talked about inviting some of our local elected, senators and representatives, to a committee meeting and, tell them what we've done here in Grant County as far as our sprint paramedic local plan. And, show them the budget that we're working on. So if there happens to be any of that legislative funding left and the pilot projects are sunsetted, we want to show them that we would be ready to, take on that if there's any extra funding and be able to put it to good use in the sprint paramedic program. The only other thing that kind of echoes what Dwight started with, over the weekend, there was a really bad, accident on 94. There were 2 of our sprint paramedics there on scene. And it's it's a good deal. We're making a difference in emergency medical services with this program, and I think not only are the constituents receiving that care, but anybody passing by on the interstate or traveling through our county or here visiting, we're very fortunate to have the resources and the EMS that we have, so.
Yeah, cause like Tina said, with I-94 out there, our EMS is out there a lot. I can only imagine the pressure on those EMS people when you're extricating two people out of separate vehicles, trying to get them out of there. With all that racket going on, but they did a great job, so.
And not only that, but the support and resource to our volunteer EMTs and first responders that are out there trying to do what they can do, but they're limited, right? But their training, when the paramedics show up, it helps everybody on scene feel better because they're trained at that higher level of care.
Yeah, and then when the helicopters come, you know, out where that accident happened, it's two-way traffic because they're rebuilding the, westbound lane. So they brought those choppers in and landed them on that construction zone where it was safe. And then these workers had to carry these people up to the guardrail, and they had 6 people on the other side of the guardrail to hand them over and get them to the choppers. And, so, yeah, I can't thank all those people enough. We're lucky to live where we do. So EMS is a big deal, and I gotta tell you this, that the state's kind of looking at us here, it's our what we're doing here. That's what the reps tell us anyway, so. All right, Personnel Committee.
I think we're up to date on where we were when we hear back from the union, then I'll come back here.
Okay, Personnel Committee, Bill, did you get Matt's update there?
No, but I gotta go.
Okay, but I can,
You have it in front of you?
well, let me, I guess I don't. But I do have, Matt sent me an earlier update on, they're working on County Road 4 right away acquisition up there. You know, it's down the road a ways, but County Road 4 is not in good shape, and they're working on that, so they're contacting all the landowners up there with information about that. And then see here. You got it there, Bill?
I do, okay, and if you want me to touch on this.
Yeah.
You would, okay. On the maintenance side of things, Central Specialties has finished our class 5 stockpile south of Baird, so staff will be hauling and spreading gravel for the near future. Mostly completed with noxious weed spraying, and will continue monitoring some of the problem locations. On the construction side of things, the bridge on County Road 52 is moving along, which and I was out there and took a look at it, and it's actually, it's looking really, really nice. It's a wood decking that they're gonna cover with blacktop, and it's very well built. So, all right, I'll go back to what I'm reading here. We'll be working on backfill and building the road approaches, and completion by the end of August is on track for the County Road 52 bridge. Work on CASA 20 north of CASA 4 will begin this week with the road closure to replace a culvert and line a culvert. Roads will be closed during the culvert work, but not expected to be closed beyond this week. Pavement, reclaiming, and subsequent asphalt paving will begin next week and will be open to traffic for the remainder of the project. Flaggers will be utilized when needed. And more seal coated stockpile gravel and requested temporary traffic sign location, but we don't have an exact date for the seal coat project yet.
Okay.
Is there any more here? Yeah, it's like, let me go. Nope, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Public Safety Committee, Troy Doyle.
I think we've covered what we had.
Solid Waste,
We didn't meet. I don't think there's anything new, is there? No.
Strategic Planning Committee,
Haven't met since, I don't know when we met last.
okay. Verizon Public Health, well, Doyle, we were there, when was it, last Monday maybe? Yeah, and the new leadership is in place there. She seems to be doing a good job, and but it's fully knew the new finance guy was there. And we kinda asked him if he, come around to each county board that they represent and give us a little feel there.
But I think also what we paid him is gonna be the same as last year.
Okay, yeah, that's right, our levy, the levy request is staying the same. That recommendation came out of the finance committee to keep it that way, so we're doing good there. Okay. Is there anything else, Western Prairie Human Services, anybody wanna comment on that meeting? That we had last, Friday, I guess we just all got together down in Glenwood this time, so.
They should have a range of estimated increases in the levy request, hopefully by the end of the week. Okay, not the preliminary levy, but an estimated range of the increase.
Okay. All right. And with that, then, we're just gonna take a recess here. Nina, is that what we do? Till, 1 o'clock? We have a couple more items on the agenda, so. Thank you.
What was the fair attendance in your opinion?
Is it?
I have quite a few.
Really good, I think. I was there Thursday night, Friday night, and it was really, really good attendance.
Cause my opinion, we were in the parade and that's the least amount of candy we've ever thrown out. And Barrett was even worse. I was surprised that we go through usually a bag and a half of candy at Barrett, and we went through a half a bag. And I finished that bag and started the second one at Herman, and that's always been 2 bags, so. I thought both, at least, of course, 95 degrees and 100% humidity doesn't help, but
Sanford, you go through the parade?
yeah.
Yeah, good.
So
Everybody tickled to see the old, what was their last name, Noreen? Wasn't that a Noreen truck?
and Noreen and Howard Wagner's too.
Pete. Aurora, what's their name?
Aurora, yeah.
I don't know what her husband's name is.
Pete,
Henning, no.
was it Kenny?
Yeah.
Kenny,
Oh, was it Henning? Okay,
I remember Aurora though.
Yeah.
she was a school teacher.
I remember
With us.
There's a librarian and taught research.
I remember Vernell's dad too. Old
Yeah.
man Wagner there.
I miss that over now. He was quite a character.
Yeah.
Never forget that first night that we did the flashlight down at the museum there. He was sitting in that thing, people were, and he hit the starter on that old pickup sitting in there. Christ, those flashlights would jump, you'd see them. He had quite a sense of humor.
Got a new project for you, Billy, too.
You know, really.
Yeah. At
Okay.
the Stone Bridge. To take all those trees down. You can't even see the stone.
I know.
Bridge.
I drove by it the other day. Gonna take some waders and go down through the bridge and walk up to them.
You know what? If you do anything there, I'll help you.
Now, we looked on our map, but we don't know if it's on our land or Edke's land or on the county's.
It looks like it's in the right of way.
It's probably in the right of way, that's what I was gonna ask that. Is that a problem to take down
Oh, they'd love
box
it.
elder trees and?
They'd love you to do it.
Yeah, if it's in the right of way, I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that.
But someday when it's cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bob and I are working on getting that contractor down in there and trying to figure out a plan. I talked about maybe taking like a culvert, like concrete culvert and tucking it right up close and then putting concrete on it and on the wall and putting some mesh, like chain link fencing or something like that, and then blow concrete onto it. I don't know. It's getting expensive.
You notice it, Troy, when you drive by, it's right by.
I see it.
You don't see it either. Exactly.
You did mow down to it. I see it.
One rate,
I
Somebody
didn't,
did.
Henke must have.
25, 21 or 21, yeah.
Bob's passionate about it, sure, he wants it fixed.
Whose place is that right on the west side?
Entries.
Okay.
It was Earl Patterson for forever.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock and we'll come out of recess. And first item on the agenda is the Grant County Historical Society is gonna give us a little spiel here. So go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm Larry Getzinger, the treasurer of Grant County Historical Society, and we have Patty Benson, the curator of the Grant County Historical Society with us. I guess I am the financial expertise and do most of the budgeting and investing and, we're obviously a nonprofit. We do not get audited, however, our returns, tax returns are prepared by Kelly Gerber and Anderson, so an audit is quite expensive, or they don't do financial reviews anymore, but they at least I reconcile the bank statement, they get a copy of that in our investment accounts and verify all of that, and they set up our depreciation, so it's like a mini review at least, so everything is above board. This first sheet that I think is in your packet is our proposed budget for next year, and I showed you what our last year budget and where we were through the first 6 months to show you right where we are, and in the past, we've been good enough for you to get $32,000 for the last about 4 years in a row, I think. And that it accounts for more than 50% of our revenue in a normal year. And what's not normal, in the last 2 years, we've received some large estate gifts. Wouldn't you know? Spam too. That have allowed us to do some long overdue roof repairs, and some expansion projects, so I'll get into that, but, typically, if you will see, our proposed revenue is about 60,000 and you're paying 32,000 of that, and that basically covers Patty's salary and her benefits within $200 of that, so it can be allocated anywhere, but that's where I guess we use it, I could say. For example, in the COVID year, we didn't close, obviously. And the biggest variation in our revenue is typically what we get in donations. And then you can go, a normal year, I'll say, the worst year we had was COVID, was about $7,000. And usually in the best year, about $20,000, depending on, if we had 2 large gifts. Last year, we received $124,000 gift from a deceased Palm Beach Township resident, and the year before, or 2 years, we got from a Elbow Lake graduate, that works at retired living in, used to teach at Iowa State and worked for US Atomic Energy Commission, gave us $70,000. Well, that's an anomaly, but what it allowed us to do is we've got a brand new furnace, we've got 3 brand new air conditioners. It allows us to do some of that.
The cab, the work we did on the cab.
And the log cab.
Part of the 60,000 was designated for the work we did on the cabin. which we're still waiting to get the chinking done on.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, yeah, just raising and moving the cabin was $25,000, so, but we put a foundation underneath it, and it was sorely needed, and chinking keeps, what should I say, our guy that volunteered to do it each of the last 2 years has had hernia operations and doesn't want to get on the ladder anymore. Now we think we finally got another person out of Ashby that's interested.
We had a couple of names to check off.
So we hope to finish that this year, yet. But expense wise, we're, I'll say, really conservative where we spend our money. Most of it is in the computer support area. Patty has been good enough and been successful enough to get grants for multiple projects that we got going. You just read in the paper, we just got a $5,400 grant to, why don't you explain it, or?
Well, it's for a collections management software and a pilot inventory that we're going to do. There's some paperwork, well, we got paperwork on some of the items in the museum. A lot of stuff that's in there that we have no record of where it came from. I know there's stuff that's been there, you know, longer than I've been there, of course, but, so this pilot inventory, we've got a bunch of volunteers. We call for volunteers. We've got like 10 people that came forward to volunteer to work on that, and we will be going through just a set number of items to see how long it's gonna take for each one. For each item, we have to take, first check to see if it's got a number, record, you know, get that in there. If it doesn't have a number, we have to give it a number. We will put in a description, obviously say what the object is. Take measurements, take photographs of it, so we have a photograph connected to each object.
Who the donor was.
If, yeah, eventually that might not come the first part, but, and then just kind of see how long that's gonna take. And then maybe possibly using that, to write a grant where we could hire 1 or 2 people to work on it. With the number of volunteers we got, I'm kind of hoping that maybe we, you know, they're just willing to kind of keep on and continue with the inventory without having to, you know, hire someone, or, you know, put out there to hire someone, you know, if they are willing to keep on at it, you know, with the number of people that we got, which was, you know, we put it out there hoping to get 2 or 3, so to get as many as we did was a pleasant surprise for us. And hopefully get, you know, even get some of them involved in some other projects even too, and with that, so. And then like a couple of the grants, we had a grant a couple of years ago to purchase a new microfilm reader, digital, you know, printer reader kind of thing. And then last year we did a grant to order microfilm to get our newspaper collection up to date on microfilm. Like that.
So I think we've written 3 grants, and each of the last 3 years have been successful, and all of those, one was 10,000, one was about 6,000, one 5,400, so that's helped our cause immensely. We've got, you know, ongoing, the biggest variable is always what the insurance market's been doing, and that's hit us hard. That's up to about $5,300 a year or so, and that's probably not this past year. It only went up 3% for us, but the year before it went up 20%. It took that hit, but everybody's experiencing that, and the utilities. But our donations, we do obviously the fundraiser doing Fleckafest, the oldies sale usually draws about $2,500. That's the biggest one-day single event, so. But ongoing, the gifts, I noted what are some of the capital projects on the repairing of the Stone Bridge on County 21. We've got a bid for roughly 17,000 that the board has approved. We've also approved the Quonset roof repair is about 23,000. What's happening there is they've got screws or rivets going down through the roof that don't have washers on them. And they're starting to leak, and the clear
The skylights
are leaking.
leaking around some of those.
So they need, Prairie Ridge Builders is giving us an estimate, and they're on our list to make it. And same thing with our little Quonset to the west of the building. We're actually gonna expand that. That's got the same roof leak, but we're also gonna insulate that and heat that and air condition that. So we've got extra space, and we're gonna tie it into the rear Quonset so we can use it in the winter. Right now, it just gets snowed in. It's unusable. So we're gonna add about 200 square feet to that as well. And that project's gonna run roughly $80,000, all new roof. They gotta put in a new concrete floor, or addition to the floor because of the sweating once we put HVAC in there. Otherwise it just mold up, so.
New posts too.
And new posts, there's a couple rotten posts. And then finish the cabin chinking, we're guessing that's gonna run about $5,000 too, so that alone is about $125,000. And that's what that gift was, although we've got still some money to spend. Some future project, we looked at actually air conditioning the big Quonset and insulating that and doing electrical upgrades, but there's another $100,000 stereo, but we have not approved that. All these other 125 projects have been approved by the board, so. I guess all we're hoping that we'll continue your continued support, that the commissioners give the Grant County Museum and Historical Society.
Well, we're lucky to have both of you over there. I know Patty does a wonderful job over there. People tell me that, and I've seen it over the years, so. So with that, does anybody wanna make a motion? Here to,
No
We
motion
don't-
today,
we can't
Just
do that.
informational.
just informational.
Oh, I see, that's because this wasn't on that's why it wasn't on the bridge.
No,
Yeah, I got you.
And I think, I can't remember if it was Ken or Doyle that asked about the investment account,
Oh, yeah.
the 10,000. That basically, what we've done is put the money up in Dorn, where it doesn't make sense in the Bank of the West earning 1% , so we've got invested in the Gabelli money market, which is basically US Treasuries and T-bills. And then right now, I just checked with Matthew this morning, it's at 3.61, but most of last year it was over 5, and then it's dropped each time the interest rate drops, it goes down, but current CDs I could buy for 4.1 today, but we know we're gonna spend 125 of that, but at least we make use of that money, for providing us 10,000 of cash flow,
Well,
And there, Mr. Chair, if I can touch on this, there's a lot of donated hours and time and, you know what I mean? We gotta pay somebody, so we gotta pay Patty to, to take care of the place and keep the doors open and things like that, but. If we had to pay ourselves, it'd get ridiculous as much donated time as went into the museum. And, there's certain things that we do and things like that, so I got a lot of time into that old log cabin, hauling dirt out of there and, landscaping and, we put up wood, that wood fence and, signs out front and, just trying to enhance it a little bit and then create activities enough to justify, staying open after hours and things like that on Saturdays and stuff like that. It's all donated time. And so there's a lot of donated, in-kind contributions coming from a large group. Whether it be your genealogy bunch or, you know what I mean, it isn't a ghost town up there anymore. There's a lot of activity going on.
The trouble is we're getting older.
Yeah.
Billy's been on the board for the previous 9 years and he's now has to be off the board by our bylaws.
Forever.
Billy and for Hal Stanford, myself are the grunts.
Yeah.
We're the young ones.
I have to be off for a year and then, I don't know, then you guys can maybe put me back on again. So too. But it's just, you need, you know what I mean, the recurring people to show up to do certain things, even right down to the parades and right down to helping move stuff for the old resale and all that. There's a lot to it, just to be able to, you know what I mean, for the common good of keeping a museum alive and well.
And just, I don't know if you looked at the website, we've got, gchsmn.org is our website. Linda Wilson is our webmaster, puts a lot of time, has put a lot of time into that and keeping things updated and stuff on there too.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Linda came on board 2 years ago, 2 years ago.
Well, I think it's longer than that now.
But we had just a static website, not Spark. Now we can collect dues, we can put a store on, it's retroactive, we're on Facebook, we're on our own website, it's very dynamic, ties in with Minnesota Historical Society and other Minnesota Association of
Local history museums.
Yeah.
That's something too, like with the inventory, the software that we have for that is actually in the cloud. That they're putting it on and we can make. We will be able to choose to make some of those things public. If we want, probably not everything that we have in the inventory would go public, but it's mncollections.org. You can go on there. There's over probably almost 70 other museums that are using the same software. And you can go on there and they have different, things in their collection on that site. So then, museums can visit the other, or the public will be able to go in and see what we have, at least the stuff that we choose to make public. There are things in there that for, certain reasons that you don't want to necessarily make public. Just, if it's got a kind of a sensitive nature to it, but, there's a good chance that down the road, a good share of our collection, you will be able to go in and online and kind of see what we have too.
And we continue to get new donations and gifts come in every month. Lots of duplicate stuff we're starting to turn.
Well, yeah, you've got to get it kind of particular on a lot of things now, just because we don't have room.
But that's it, we're out of space. That's one of the reasons why we're expanding that lead.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully get reorganized so we have some better storage.
And again, you guys' Zoom events for your meetings and things like that, there's people that are, that sit and watch the meetings and they're board members and it lets you create a quorum and things like that. And if it wasn't for the Legion, Clint Grove and Stuart Anderson years back, to be able to create that, memorial hall, for the veterans and all that stuff, you know what I mean? That just enhanced the museum's meeting room, let alone anybody else that wants it, the Veterans Memorial Board, they meet up there. I sit on that and things like that. So I mean, it's a busy place.
The Legion donated that hall to the museum. Now this year, the first year, we had some repair work only $3,200, we thought it was gonna be worse. Where the rubber bladder came off.
The gable end.
Gable end.
Steel blew off the gable end. Patty noticed a sheet of steel and we all looked and said, where did that come from? Jody Cruz went up there and goes, I think you guys better address this. It was a great big hole.
Yeah.
So.
You have to be out there looking for something else and notice that that's where it.
Yeah. So there's more roof repair that's ongoing. You know, that's time for us to do that. And when we all talked about it and kind of got some bids and move forward. So, and I've been to the last couple meetings, you know,
So you
so.
were off since.
Yeah, I'm not coming, you know what I mean? I get the emails and I read up a little bit, but you guys get pretty much got it, right?
And this year's pretty flat year so far, just. Revenue or about match the expenses. That's what we try to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question. Is there any stuff for the oldies showing up over there? People hauling stuff in for that?
Not yet. I'm sure it'll come. I know people have asked about it. I kind of encourage them to, you know, if they can hold off maybe another week. You know,
We're
so
gonna
we
put an
don't,
ad out already.
yeah, so we don't get inundated all at one time
Okay.
with stuff, so.
But
But
I
I
make
think
bets, Troy wants to start on the lean-to the week before the.
Yeah.
Like a mess.
Yeah.
We gotta clean all that out. So, but, Bill, I heard Wyoming donated or a trailer for us to put it in, and we're gonna park it down by the. Strum of the old,
Lumberyard property,
yeah, the old lumberyard.
Strum and Bortson, is that what you were searching for those words?
Sam
Nice
Olson.
Yeah,
website, I just looked at it,
Huh?
the website, I was looking at it, it's pretty nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's dynamic and it moves.
Yep.
Yeah. Been a lot of work in the last 10 years I've been there. We've done a lot. Which is good. Flashlight and Entity Museum, what do we get, 90 plus?
Not that many. Good year, I think the best year we had 75 or so, maybe the one year, but then we also when they have trunk or treat here, and that's usually before Halloween, so then when we have trunk or treat here in town, we're open then too, and we have over 100 kids and adults that come in at that time too, so.
And the members dress up in different costumes.
What does Bill dress up as?
You don't have to dress up.
No, I'm one of them hoodlums in the back that scare people.
He puts on his
You got your
camouflage.
camouflage,
Books
he's
of-
got a sheet metal thing that he rattles that scares all of them. I'm in a Jason Voorhees mask, stepping out of the dark.
Well, I put something on a fishing line and crank it out in front of them and get them. So, get kids, you know, they just love it. They're howling and they're having a ball, but they really are. It's a lot of fun. And there is a sickness in me to scare them. It's a lot of fun, so.
Anything else you wanna add?
Well, just make you aware, coming up, next Thursday evening, we're gonna have a program at the museum about the protests and the controversy. Right now, we have it's Minnesota Electrifying Minnesota, temporary exhibit that's through the Minnesota Historical Society that's up. So it's kind of to coincide with that, we're gonna do this. One of the panels in that exhibit talks about the power line controversy from the 70s. So we're gonna, I have a DVD that had been given to us where they're talking about the grassroots protests that popped up with the power line controversy there. So we're gonna show that and then hopefully have a discussion, hopefully get some, some people that it affected, or were in the area, participated in the protests or whatever, to just kind of have a discussion about it afterwards. So that's next Thursday. Then during Flecka Fest, we're gonna have a program on the ghost towns in Grant County.
So on your power line protest, have you talked to Sheriff Williams about being there?
No, I guess I hadn't, I should, yeah.
He'll tell you.
Jeff Olson helped you there, I know.
Yeah. Well, and Jeff, kind of going along with that too, just before we had it, got at the beginning of May, the end of April was our annual meeting, so we had Jeff Olson come and do a program on the Otter Tail Power Elbow Lake, fight that went
US Supreme Court decision.
with that too, so we have.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, too bad Jerry Walwick still isn't around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Just a little bit of tidbit on that, of course, I wasn't here at the time, but. That power line controversy, that really put the Hoffman Co-op on the map, which I managed for over 20 years. And I remember talking to the then manager, Tom Larson, and he had a mob at his house in Hoffman, and some of the employees that worked for me, they'd have to have police escort to go out on the site. I mean, it was quite a brouhaha in the county, but they sold them a boatload of stuff. And after that happened, that's when they built the new station. Yeah,
sure.
that was.
And William still live in town?
Yep.
11th Avenue. Ed man. Yep.
I can give you his phone number.
I probably have because they're members.
Yeah, he told me a lot, you know, when I first started.
He would be good for that then.
He said it was something else. And we never lost a tower in this county, but there were some tense times. And then, of course, in Polk County, it was pretty
Yeah, they were really well done.
pretty violent down there. There was a bullet went through the squad car down there one day with 2 guys in it. That got a little hairy, but, yeah. So, but he'd be a good resource. He remembers that clearly. So,
Good suggestion, thanks.
Yeah,
I'll get that number for you though.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I have their number, their members, or they're in our membership file, so
I know his home number is 4103.
Like, you probably shouldn't say that.
On public
Number?
meeting.
Yeah, well, they can't figure out the first part. of it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Any further questions?
Good job.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for your continued support.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Patty. Thank you for coming. Are you guys?
Master of the business in there.
Well, we'll see if I can run through one from that, based on that.
Hello. Hey.
Go ahead and have it. Chairs right at the table.
Right up front center, awesome. Sure, I can do that. We got a little pocket moss for you guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You living on the lake?
I am. The lake is a mess,
It is, huh? Just,
weeds everywhere, how do
Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, yeah, one for you, thank you, we got.
you see your son about every day.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, yeah. We talk a lot in there.
Well, we probably wanna start out first, say thank you for supporting us and for the money that you sent. Well, back a few weeks ago, and so, yeah, it helps us a ton, we appreciate it. And then we just wanted to maybe let you guys ask us questions, we do have some numbers for you of like how many animals have come in this year.
Yeah,
Um,
so far we've taken in, since the first of the year, 42 cats and 26 dogs. We've done about 70 spay and neuters, around the area, on animals.
We work with Lake Region, obviously, or Lake Area Swan, sorry. And we put together a program where if we get funding that's specifically for spay and neuter, that some people wanna support us that way. And then Dr. Kendra and her team give discounts, so it's kinda like what used to come to the shelter, that mobile unit that would come. They used to come from the cities, they don't come as far anymore, but they would do spay and neuters at a discount.
Yeah, they used to just, for a while there, the closest they were getting to us was St. Cloud. Once, when they quit, COVID, gas, the whole 9 yards. And then St. Cloud was the closest they would get to us. Well, for most people, it's not convenient. I mean, I can't take off a whole day to bring an animal in somewheres to get it to pay or either. And basically spend all day by the time I get back, so we started this. We did about, oh gosh, I think we did, I wanna say 90 to 100 last year. And we've done already 70 this year.
And it is based on income.
Yeah, and they, each animal technically costs us out of our restricted funds for spay neuter on an average is about $35 to $40 per animal. And that is all money that we have earned or requested, like through grants. Runestone, electric, different things, whatever it is. And that is the only thing that money is used for. We don't use, it's not, used for anything else within the shelter.
And we had our board meeting last night, we think it's helping, and we think our numbers are down of what comes in.
It has been, we do have a waiting list, typical on cats. We have a fairly good waiting list on cats right now again, but we also have 8 cats in ISO, and we can't get any more in until we can get them out. And I mean they're all babies, so it's gonna take a little bit, but once we get them out, we'll be able to bring in more. We're kind of stuck at the moment.
So you're not taking little kitties then, huh?
Yeah.
We just got done with 6 bottle babies. That everybody was taking home, every night and feeding, and every day brought it in, whatever. And at least we're past the bottle babies right now. But yeah, that's a norm.
I'm training mine to open doors.
Hey, we got one.
Stand by the door and open it up.
Yeah.
Hey, we had one that opened our refrigerator all the time.
Yeah, they're crafty, that's for sure. What else, Marita, do we?
Well, just over on the paperwork that I gave you, on the very first page. Under the 4,100 or 41,000 area direct support. Last year, we basically had $90,000 this year, so, and that's to date, that's from January actually to today's date. We're only at 74. So that's quite a drop. And we understand it's, things change and, and stuff, so we try to do as much fundraising as we can. We just had our boutique with the food truck, and we made $1,100. It's, and then we got, of course, now Flecka Fest will have our rummage sale.
That's one of our big ones.
And
We
that's-
bring in about, what, 5,000?
We,
on that?
generally, depending on everything, we can do close to 5 on that one, yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of work.
We do the wine tasting, April, and, that brings in, well, this year we had a matching grant from Modern Woodsman.
Mhm.
And so total, we brought in about 8,000 on that.
Yeah, but average is about five, between 5 and 6. And we're hoping to do our pasta night supper, maybe in September. Coming up, that's another halfway decent one, you know. More fundraising we can do, the better. Of course, it doesn't always work for, you know, for us either on time frame and what else is all going on and whatever, but we try to do as much as we can, and then we try to do a lot of grant writing. We just, it's not fully completed. But we had applied for a grant from the Elk Lake Fire Department that gave us $1,500 towards new kennels indoors at the shelter. We've got a couple of them that are still originals. I mean, they're, you know, they're getting bad on us. And we sort of did some brainstorming because our outside area for the isolation was getting well used. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the inside kennels that we're replacing. We're gonna bring them outside and use them for our outside area for the isolation. And I got a hold of Jesse Schreiner from Lake Country Concrete, who very graciously came in, did all the work. The only thing we got charged for was the cement. And we put in a 20 by 20 slab for the isolation area, which will be a major upgrade as far as being able to clean, sanitize, you know, where it needs to be. Now the kennels have finally come in, so the new ones will go inside, the old ones will go out, and we'll go around that area completely, and we'll be, you know.
We used to go in there with the city skid loader and kind of clean it up
Yep.
and freshen it up and everything
Yeah.
like that, you know, so that. You poured concrete probably. would
No,
change
not
this.
only in the, so the isolation is a very small area compared to the rest of the whole
Yeah.
dog yard. And the reason we thought concrete was best is because of the sanitary nature. Isolation is for animals that come in, that we don't know anything about, and we can't, you know, we don't know if they have disease, they haven't had any shots. So they can't be around the other animals, so they have to have their own area to go outside.
Okay,
And then they have their own area within the shelter too, so that's why it's just clean.
Yeah,
On
and
that
then
slab there,
once
so we
the,
still have the gravel out in the
Yeah.
area.
okay.
yeah, and once the new isolation area is finished, we gotta get, well, then we have to get more rocks inside the main area, you know, on the for the dog run area, you know, whatever, but
Yeah.
we've held back on that, but we've needed it. But we've held back on it because it'd be so much easier to get that area finished than it is to try and dig rocks away from things again, you know,
Yeah.
to finish up the kennel, so.
What kind of questions you guys have for us?
Kelly, I had a question. What was the ask? What's the ask for this year?
We asked for 10. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So got a question for you. Have you guys have any water problems with you put that new roof on that building up there?
No,
Haven't, no.
And you haven't, there's been no problem on the east side, it goes around and it gets out of there, and I mean, we've had some pretty significant rain events. You
Yeah.
know, the water coming in the building, good.
oh, it's been
Doesn't,
really.
it's not coming in from the roof, obviously, and not around the building either, right?
Yeah,
It's
no,
not.
we haven't had any
Good.
water issues at all.
But you did for a little while there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
You
did.
know,
the new roof has made a big difference,
Yeah,
cause then comes, the new roof actually goes all the way, I wanna say basically all the way down.
beyond,
You know, whatever, so that there's no spacing in there, and
Okay.
that's made a big difference for us.
good. City, they come and plow your snow for you?
Very graciously, that's wonderful. Because there's, you know, especially with depending on the way, unfortunately, the way the building sits and the wind blows,
Yeah,
it fills up right now, you know, so it's. They, you know, anytime that we have some major snow, they come in and they they did do a 2, 3 swipes with the backhoe and I mean, we're done, you know.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support we received from everybody, businesses, the city, the county. We couldn't do it without you, so for sure.
Well, any other questions of these gals? We thank you for what you do though,
Yeah, well,
cause I plainly see what you do,
yeah,
that's for sure.
it's very rewarding. I think it's much needed.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. Well, we'll
Okay.
let you guys get back at it. Thank you for the
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Thank you,
good
guys.
all for that. Thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
ladies.
thanks, Tina. Good to see you too.
Okay, well,
All right.
there's no other business, so, I'll call for the adjournment at 1:40 PM. Thank you.